Yes, y'all, it's going down right now. Episode 257 of the Triple Shots of Moodz and Horror podcast is coming at you live and direct with the homie, JP, also known as the Mexicant, Mr. Saucedo, also known as Tyler, and I be your host, Moodz. Yeah. What's going on, dudes? Yeah.
What's up?
Ready to mine some gems.
Chilling like a motherfucking villain. I'm sore as hell, and I'm very uncomfortable in this chair right now. It's bugging me. I know I'm just complaining right off the top of the show, but man, I'm in pain. Fuck. So, don't mind me if I dip out a few times on this show. Oh, and then to top it off, all my fucking notes got deleted off my phone, so I'm really gonna have to wing it on these films tonight. How the fuck does that shit happen?
It's because you got an iPhone, bro. I bet it's.
I've never once ever had a problem. I swear I must have hit something last night. Like I was having some beers out by the fire, but I don't like. I've never had this happen. I've never lost any of my note pages before in my phone, but like I lost a whole block of them. So something obviously happened. Like I literally lost like 10 of them. So I was pissed because I even made a grocery list and now it's gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever. Yeah, and I had made that list because the wife is heading out of town tomorrow for the week. They're heading up to, I think, some peaks to go skiing and shit. And so I noted down a few things I wanted to pick up for eats this week and shit. So, but now I'm going to have to redo that. I mean, you think I would be able to remember it? Yes, but no, I'm fucking stupid. So I got to redo all that shit. It's just annoying. It's just annoying that I lost all my damn notes. And, you know, that's the problem with like kind of, you know, relying on notes sometimes. I know Dave Z, this happened to him one time too, right? Right before his show. He's like, fucking notes got deleted. He's like, you can't remember shit.
I think there's a time on his show where he starts tripping out.
Yeah.
Because he lost his name. He's like, I'm useless without my notes.
It's fun. It's funny too, because a lot of times I'll take notes on films and then I won't even use them. Like I literally will not even like look at them.
Dude, I barely ever.
I usually only do it for like main reviews. Like if I'm doing like, you know, specific, like when we used to do what we watch and stuff, I never took notes. I just came off the dome, right? I just said what I had to say off the dome kind of thing. But for featured reviews, just to remember like certain plot point or certain things and stuff, I would, you know, jot things down and stuff. But generally, I mean, I'll have like fucking 900 words written down, but I'll maybe use like 3 of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'll only do it like on tonight or like top 10 shows where like I'm gonna have to solo my own review. You know what I mean?
You know what's funny? I've never made notes for a top 10 show ever. I don't know why. I just never do those for top 10 shows. It's weird. And I guess those are kind of like featured reviews in a sense.
This hasn't really been like an issue like in the last like couple, but like I always like try to like just like have specific things I'm gonna say and just not say them when someone else is talking about the movie.
Yeah.
So that helps me stay on track with that. But that's only happened like twice, really.
Yeah. So I think the big news out of fucking Hollywood this week was Neve Campbell returning for Scream 7.
Yeah. I made Dave Rage quit about this.
Yeah. Like I actually just kind of saw a headline. I was scrolling through, I think it was Instagram or something like that. I was like, oh, Neve Campbell's return. I'm like, is this real? Because everything is always fake news out there, for fuck's sakes. But then I saw Kevin Williamson was directing, and I actually laughed out loud. I was like, oh man, this was already a disaster film. And I'm like, can this revive it? Is this going to be the answer? I mean, Neve Campbell coming back, I guess, is a good point to start. But what's with the Kevin Williamson directing? I don't understand that.
I don't think at this point.
Is that a good thing?
Well, I mean,
he's not a director.
Definitely a good writer.
That's what I'm saying. But it doesn't correlate to like, just because you are a fantastic screenplay writer or writer in general, doesn't translate into directing films at all.
Right. I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen like the longtime writer get a shot at direct. Like, didn't that happen with Lee Winnell with the Insidious 3?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it's happened before for sure. It has happened, but I don't know. It just seemed very odd to me that they would like go to Kevin Williamson. Like, why would you, like, he's never directed anything before. Why wouldn't you?
Didn't he just direct something?
Maybe he has. Yeah.
I'm surprised they're not just going to give the ball back to these two guys.
I just thought it was an odd choice considering this Part 7 has been so plagued with issues and stuff that they would go to someone that doesn't have that much experience.
Actually, he directed Teaching Mrs. Tingle in 1999.
Right. I actually knew that.
I think it's an interesting choice to have him direct. I'm curious to see how it turns out.
Next feature 25 years later, like his.
I mean, he has he at least worked with Wes Close on the 3 that he did.
Yeah.
And then I believe the 4th one as well. And I feel like oftentimes whenever we do see this happen, which I could think of a few examples if I really tried, where the writer of a franchise eventually goes on to direct.
Yeah.
I feel like it usually works out.
I guess we'll see. I mean, but, like I said, I mean, it's a decent start getting Neve Campbell back into her role.
Before all this other stuff even happened, I thought they were going to try to get Neve back at some point just because
of course.
They never like shut the door on that. They said like, we would love to have Neve back in the future.
I was a little bit shocked that she actually re-signed on because, like, you know,
I was shocked that she re-signed on.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Offered, yeah,
because I mean, you turned down part 6 because they didn't offer you enough money. You must be thinking to yourself, like, fuck these guys. Like, why wouldn't they just pay her what she wanted for part 6? Like, she's the face of the franchise, and it's funny that like she would. It's just such a weird thing to me.
That's the thing,
I think that the problem was is that they had such a big cast, including Jenna Ortega.
Yeah.
That I'm sure that took a lot of the money, you know.
But to me, if you have a face of a franchise, you pay that person first. And then
I think that their idea was that they were gonna basically move on to a new face of the franchise.
That's how I took it. Like that was Scream 6.
True.
I kind of like realized like that like Neve Campbell's not like the star of this anymore. Like Jenna Ortega is huge. Like
I didn't miss her, which was weird to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I didn't miss her.
I have a feeling she was not going to have a large role. I think like she's just gonna be, you know, if she's gonna sign on, she's just gonna probably be like delegated. I think Gail might have gotten a bigger role this time because Neve wasn't there.
I agree.
I think they're gonna kill her off in this one.
No,
I would have not been surprised if they killed her off.
I think so.
If they kill her off ever, I'm gonna be pissed.
Like 6 would have been a good time to kill her off if you really think about it.
You know how stupid that sounds? You're gonna be pissed off that a fictional fucking character dies in the franchise. Come on, bro.
Yes, the reason why is because Wes didn't want it, and I feel like we need to honor Wes's wishes. And 2, because what?
You got to be fucking kidding me, dude. This is 7 goddamn movies. How in the fuck does the main fucking protagonist last 7 fucking movies?
That's why it's awesome, because it's never happened. Every single, name one slasher franchise or franchise in general where the main character lives throughout the entire series.
Well, there is none, because mostly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, that's what is cool about it, is that it does break the norm.
Yeah, but Scream had a thing with keeping all their main characters for like the longest time until they started finally picking them off. Like, fuck, man.
Wes
like really, like Dewey should have died in fucking part 3. Like
when part 4 came out and everybody was mad that the 3 main characters survived, Wes was like, I'm never gonna kill them because they are the franchise.
I never liked when Wes Craven said that though. Like.
Because then any future films they're not
exactly.
Gonna die.
I always thought that
doesn't necessarily mean that he's just not saying that, so it's more surprising when they do.
True. I mean, you could be fucking with people. You could be fucking with people, but
that's like a JP.
Like I believed him.
People can just change their mind.
Oh, so he was trolling. He was fucking trolling.
I don't know if he's trolling or just
I don't think it's nest. Yeah, I don't think it's like even if he were to have said that, like I don't think it's absolute. You know what I mean?
He could change his mind.
Of course. I mean, you can.
Like Quentin Tarantino says he's going to make 10 movies, but like in 10 years from now, if he wants to, he says I'm going to make another fucking movie. You think he's going to be like, oh no, I can't do it? Like,
so you think that was like the one thing that Wes Craven said to Kevin Williamson when he was writing these films was like, hey, do what you want to do with the script and shit, but you're not killing off these characters.
I feel like Wes did not ever want to kill off Sidney, at least.
I mean, in a way, it's kind of genius because, like you said before, like I mean, there's a million slasher franchises out there, and honestly, most protagonists don't last into through the second film.
Yeah, right. Jamie Lee Curtis has been killed twice.
I know
in Halloween.
Yeah, but like, dude, I swear to God, every fucking show Halloween gets brought up at some point, and it just makes me cringe. Ugh, see, that's so stupid. It's so dumb. Like, come on, dude. Like. you know what I mean. But anyways, yeah, I mean, in a sense, it actually is kind of a brilliant idea to go this far, this deep into a franchise and still have your main character alive.
We have two left.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I would actually be more willing to lose Sydney versus Gale at this point. Because I feel like Gale's the obvious answer. But if Sydney dies, I would feel shocked.
I feel like killing off Gale is weird because like she's such a vital role in the franchise, right? Like
I actually love
seems to
Gale.
always everything always comes back down to her. You know, like she's got such
Gale
a vital role.
actually has the best character development in the franchise. If you actually look at the whole picture,
yeah, I think killing her off would be weird.
She was like a bitchy reporter who only cared about the story.
Yeah,
and then she became, you know, a hero, and then she capitalizes on that, and then she became washed up because she settled down and actually did like the right thing that people, you know, expect. And then she had a big comeback, and like she has actually like a pretty big arc throughout the series.
Yeah.
But
and some pretty bad bangs. What was that part 4? When
part 3, dude. Oh my like, dude, that is the worst haircut of all time.
It literally is the worst haircut in cinema history. Like if we were to break this down and make a top 5 worst fucking mugs, like that's got to be up there, man.
Yeah,
dude, so bad. No doubt, man.
But she, you know, I am happy that because like the worst thing they could have did was just, you know, lose Ortega, lose the other sister, lose everybody else, and then still not bring back Sydney. Like, what are you even looking at that point? You know, you might as well cancel the series.
So, like, I mean, they obviously haven't, you know, leaned towards giving any of like the new narrative away, but like, what do you think? Like, what are they going to do? Because I don't even remember now what because they mentioned Sydney in part 6 and like where she was, or whatever the fuck it was. I can't even remember now. But
didn't
like, what did they
say? She couldn't come or something.
Something like that.
Well, they were in New York. Why would she be there?
Yeah, they were like, she can't come, but she sends her wishes or something.
I actually like the idea of going. Doing other changes like that. Like,
so how would they get an incorporator? Because I'm assuming this is like, you know, a sequel to the last one.
They might. I don't know. They might take it back. They might take it back to Woodsboro. Maybe they'll kill so? Maybe I don't know. I'm just
maybe they'll go to like LA again or something.
Yeah, or like maybe maybe it'll track her down and she's in hiding somewhere.
Well, obviously they got to do something to put her into the narrative, right? But
maybe
let's set this bitch on Christmas.
Why not?
Maybe the last one was set on Halloween. Fuck it.
They should just go.
Ghostface would look pretty cool in the snow, man.
They should do a full scorched earth and just kill off like the core 4 at the beginning of the movie somehow, and then just and then she goes to like investigate. That's stupid. Why would she ever do that?
I don't know why. I just feel like this one is going to be. Oh man, I'm just honestly.
Well, you didn't like the last 2, so
I know, and like I just feel like this one's going to be the worst of the 3. Like I thought
it could be.
I mean, I didn't think part 5 was like the worst thing in the world, but like I thought part 6 was pretty dreadful, man.
See, I like part 6 more than part 5 in hindsight.
Like I was
like, wow, I think 6 was a lot better than 5, maybe.
Like they kind of went out of control with like the reveal and shit in part 6, and like
listen.
I thought it was kind of silly.
They're
actually
always out of control. Like, name one where it hasn't been out of control.
This is where I've kind of like.
But part 5, the reasoning behind all the killing was so stupid, dude. I literally laughed out loud when I watched that.
Part 5,
yeah,
it's the same as part 2 or part 1. I mean,
that's that's part of it. So, that's part of it. Why it's kind of silly.
And then this one was the same as part 2.
Yeah, it's silly.
So I've kind of come around.
I think this one was worse than part 2, though.
Like I've come around to like thinking like, okay, they're silly, and that's just the franchise, and like that's a good point like you've made. And it's like, yeah, you know, you're right. Even if these like are for me, the problem's not because like there's a silly reveal. Like this has just been the franchise. Like this is like the stamp of it. But I will say 6 to me,
Scooby Doo, bro.
Yeah, 6 to me felt really lazy.
It's not Scooby Doo. You know why it's not Scooby Doo? Because fucking Scooby Doo is awesome. These aren't.
Yeah, but if you took Scooby Doo seriously, you'd be like, "This is dumb." It's always.
No, I agree.
I do take Scooby Doo seriously.
I've always kind of said
everything Scooby Doo, man.
Yeah,
I fucking love Scooby Doo.
I've always kind of said like slasher movies, especially. That's why I like the gimmicky ones with like there's a mask or a holiday or something. Like they're basically just like adult Scooby Doo movies.
Yeah,
really,
they are.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with like the like, my theory is if they continue this, the killer in this one's going to be a family member or something like that.
it's going to be fucking Sydney this time.
No, they can.
That'd be so sick.
No,
Dude,
And he just goes full.
They got to write that one day, man, where all of a sudden they just flip the fucking script literally and Sydney fucking snaps and she's the one doing the shit, man. She's had so much trauma over the years. She's lost so many friends. She's seen so much bad shit that she's like, fuck this, man. My brain don't work properly anymore. I'm going on a
It just
killing
doesn't
spree.
feel like it would ever be in her character to be
But
like
no one
that.
would expect that either, though. Like, could you
Yeah,
imagine?
You
like,
would.
And watch,
You just expected it now.
I know. If it happened to me, I'd be like, told you so. I'd literally stand up in the theater and go,
she
told you
gets
so.
away with it and frames someone else and just like walks away revealing it was her,
Right.
like fucking like the usual suspect.
I just
style.
feel like it would be
There
so.
would be a huge pop if that happened. If like something happened where like, oh, we caught the killer or whatever, another one in the books, and then like somehow like this someone walks away revealing it to be Sydney. Everyone in the theater will be like, oh shit.
They tried to do that in part 4 a little bit, where they like sort of made Sydney a red herring a little bit.
Yeah. You know, I think it would be so appropriate for the franchise if they totally flipped it in Sydney to start doing the killing, and she's the one that kills Gale. That would be fucking crazy because of the history that they've had. They don't really like each other too much. And
Yeah,
like
they do.
for Sydney
They love
to
each other.
to have Sydney kill Gale would be so crazy. It would be so iconic too. You'd be like,
Dude,
holy fuck.
you're like ruining the franchise right
And
now,
then the
bro. You need to
franchise-
No,
shut up.
I'm making it so much fucking better.
You're
dude.
ruining it, dog.
Then the next
You're
one just
literally-
becomes like
I'm
some sort of
cringing over
revenge
here.
movie.
Your
No,
ideas.
dude, I'm cringing
be
at the
fine.
rate
It's like-
that Kevin Williamson is directing part 7. I'm cringing at this shit right now.
It'll be fine.
I'm not
It's
gonna
like
lie.
it's like how Fast and the Furious used to be about racing cars. Now they're just like heist movies.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, I only ever saw the first one and I shut up. Well, I didn't shut off to say I only ended up watching like half the second one. But like, what is there, like 12 of those movies with the spinoffs? Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, maybe
Nah,
with the
dude.
spinoffs.
Well, there's 10 Fast Furious movies, but I think there's like 1 or 2 I don't know. There's a lot of them. It's crazy.
That's nuts, dude. I can't believe it.
Who would have ever thought that
Yeah.
movie would have spawned that many fucking more?
They
Not
just kept
only
going-
did it spawn them, but they're vastly successful.
Dude, hugely
Yeah, they're, like,
successful.
giant
That's why they keep
budget
making them.
movies.
They keep making them because they literally fill the cinema.
It's the same thing with the Resident Evil films. I'm like, dude, who goes to these to
You know-
make some the best movie of the year?
I'm confused
Like,
because the Resident Evil movies are really trashy, man. They're bad. Like the
I could
first movie
criticize
sucks.
that, but it's like, is it any different than me like going to see the new John Wick every time and being like fucking amped up? Like it's like
Yeah, there is a difference because those movies are actually like well done.
Yeah, they're shot well and they're edited well. Like those are fun movies, man.
The
But
last one got so out of control. I loved it.
Well, the thing with Resident Evil, like I don't hate them. I just don't understand how other people love them.
I don't get it, man. Like it took me years to actually watch the first one, and I finally did, and I was like, this is really bad, like objectively bad. Like I thought the effects were shitty. Like the video game is way better than the fucking movie.
I personally
Well,
never even
the
liked
video
original
game
one.
is my favorite game of all time. The
Yeah, it
original
was-
Resident Evil.
Yeah,
is
the
my
original
favorite
Resident Evil game is fucking. I even played that shit. It was good. But
game. Yeah,
I was always
so-
like in the arcades when I was younger.
But I didn't really
Resident
try to
Evil?
compare
I think you're
the
thinking
movie.
House of the Dead.
I didn't really try to compare.
Oh,
the
you're
movie
right.
to the
I am
game.
thinking House of the Dead.
I didn't really try to compare it because I was like, whatever, it's a
Ooh.
video game, it's a movie, whatever. You can do your own thing with it and shit like that. But I was just like, for the time, I was expecting a little bit better effects, but it just,
Well,
maybe it looked
originally
better.
Romero was making that bitch.
yeah, and that probably would have been a lot fucking better.
Probably.
But who
Yeah, I've
fucking
never
knows?
been a
I
fan
mean,
of any of
Romero
those.
Romero missed with some films too. So I mean, you never fucking know. That era of filmmaking was kind of hit and miss, wasn't it?
Well, it
So-
was. It would have been pre Land of the Dead, and I think Land of the Dead was good. So
Land of the Dead is like is a good film.
yeah, I actually think Land of the Dead's like one of those films that, as time goes on, it's going to get more and more like praise and considered, one of the other 3 zombie films that he made.
Yeah, I still can't do obviously we did the Dead franchise, but like Diary and fucking like Diary of the Dead is such an oddball film to me that like it did it in found footage and shit. It just didn't seem like a Romero film to me. You know what I mean?
It doesn't
I-
feel very Romero, but I do not mind it. I actually
watched
even
the
don't
hit.
mind Survival.
The problem is with Survival is the effects.
It was the budget. He just didn't have the kind of money that he needed to make a good.
I mean, the
Western
idea-
zombie film.
The idea behind that movie was okay. But yeah, you're right. The budget definitely held that success back.
Yeah.
Totally, man. Like the effects were shit, man. It just sucks that those are like the last films that we got from fucking Romero, man.
I know.
It always hurts my feelings, man. That's what he went out on, you know. Like in such a troubled career too, you know, like so many films he was attached to that never got made, and there's just so many what ifs, right? I always talk about it. Like every time I talk about the Dead films, I'm always like, what if he did make one in the 90s? You know, like what it would have been like. So yeah. But yeah, I think Land of the Dead was supposed to be in the 90s, right? But it didn't get made till
it was
years later. So yeah, but I mean,
actually, and Day of the Dead was supposed to be like 10 times bigger too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer when like you start to like realize the reality of like a lot of these guys' decline like has to do with them like losing a budget.
But Day of the Dead is just so amazing the way it is, though. Like I can't even picture it as a bigger film.
Dude, you know I'm glad that it turned out.
I like
to me, it's perfect.
To me, it's like it is, man. It's amazing.
There's very few movies I consider perfect. That is one of them that I consider perfect.
I like that they brought it back down a scale and made it like way more like personal.
Yeah,
and like contained. That was really.
I just love it. It's so good. Like it's just like I just love that movie so much.
And our homeboy Bill, he's in that movie. He's the fucking the football zombie.
That's awesome.
That is so funny that Castanelli's in that film.
Bill Castanelli's in that film? I didn't know that was him. Yeah,
he's the football zombie. You know,
I haven't heard from that guy in a while. Wonder what he's doing.
Yeah, you recognize the football zombie, right? From the elevator scene. All the zombies are on the elevator. Yeah. He's on there, and that's Bill Castanelli.
Huh.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I know we were like Skyping one night, and we were like talking about films, and I had no fucking idea. And then he just like something led to Day of the Dead talk, and he's like, "Yeah, by the way, I was that zombie." I was like, "What the fuck? Seriously?" I was like, "How random is that, dude? This is crazy." Because he was pretty young in that, right? So.
Yeah.
But it was just a random thing. I was like out of the blue. He's like, yeah, it was the football zombie. I was like, what the fuck? That is so cool. But yeah, anyways. So episode 257, what is it? It's Hidden Gems, Volume 1.
Yep.
And we call it
a show that literally has been planned for the last like 8 years.
Yeah, we just never got around, and we're like, fuck it, let's just do this. Like, why not just do?
Sometimes that happens. We'll literally talk about something forever. We'll even have it scheduled, and then we'll just never do it. And
did we ever like plan to do this for real? And
we had it scheduled. We definitely had it on like the list of the schedule, and I don't like even back in the Jeremy era.
Yeah,
I don't know. We either skipped it or something else came up, or we switched stuff around because sometimes we do that. But sometimes we just are like. Sometimes it just literally takes us to be like, all right, let's just do that now.
Well, that's the beauty of like the way we do shows now. It's like we sit around for 5 minutes. There's no, it's not problematic like how it used to be, right? Like it used to be such a big fucking deal to get things done and stuff. But now it's like, hey, well, we have this idea. Let's just fucking do it. And we're all like, okay, let's just do it. Like we just schedule and here we are. So, no beating around the bush. Let's just fucking do it. So, but what is Hidden Gems? Hidden Gems is just basically the idea behind this was, we each kind of pick like 5 films that we feel. I mean, we all have different reasons for why we picked our films. Like, I don't know what your guys's are. Like my films were kind of, I don't really have a rhythm to my madness. There's no rhyme to the reason. To be honest, like I had compiled a Hidden Gems list a few years back, probably when we first came up with this. And there was like, I don't know, like 15, 20 films on that list. And actually, the 5 films that I'm doing on here are actually, 4 of the 5 are actually from that list. So there's no real rhythm or like, I don't really know how to express the madness of how I picked these, to be honest. Like, it was just like, I like this film. I don't really hear a lot of people talk about it. I wasn't like going out of my way to see like, oh, this is like the most obscure film ever. And that's why it's on here, because it's a hidden gem, because like no one's ever heard of it. It's not really what it was. A couple of these movies, after the fact, I went on Letterboxd and, just kind of checked out to see how many reviews and stuff. And some of these don't have that many. So they actually are a little bit more obscure in that sense of at least being reviewed. So maybe that's why they don't get talked about. But it's generally just films that I've seen over the years and really liked myself. And just like I said, I just really didn't hear anybody ever bring up these films before. So I thought I'd talk about them. Right. So That's really like, that's really my madness. Like there was no, I didn't even like, it's odd. Like the era of films, I guess I have like 3 different decades in here, but like 3 of them are actually pretty old, and it wasn't planned like that. It's just the way it came down to it. So I don't know how to explain it, but anyways, how'd you do yours, JP?
So, I really thought about it kind of a lot. First of all, I wanted to make sure that I separated underrated from hidden gem. To me, like underrated is a movie that, you know, is popular, but doesn't get the love that I feel it deserves. Whereas hidden gems is a movie that might get the love, but nobody's seen it. You know what I mean? So the people that have seen it give it the love, but not a lot of people have seen it for whatever reason. So I really try to separate that, which I felt successful doing. And then the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to pick all 8s or above. So I basically looked at my Letterboxd of around 3,000 films that I've logged since 2011 and sorted it by popularity, which popularity is just how many people have logged it. And then went back through and looked at all the films that had like a 8 or higher, and sort of picked through some ones that I felt like I wanted to talk about. There's a few caveats with my list that I'll get to when I get to each title. In terms of, I try to go like unpopular for the most part, but there's one example that might be a little bit more popular, but within the world of it, it's unpopular. If that it'll make more sense later. And then I had a bunch of films. I got about 15 that I had considered. And after I got the list of 15, I tried to pick ones that were different from each other, for the most part. So I got I got 4 different decades represented, I believe, which is pretty good. And then I also tried to pick films that I thought were going to be strong on a rewatch, because I actually did watch all these this week, which I initially didn't plan on doing. I was just going to pick the movies and not rewatch them, but I felt like I had to rewatch them. There is one movie that actually went down a little bit on my rewatch, which was a little disappointing. So, you know, I was going to pick something else, but I just decided to go with it because it didn't go down. It still qualifies as the 8 or higher. It just went down from what I had it. Right. I think I had it at 8.5 before, and now it's like 8, 7.5, somewhere around there, but still a hidden film for sure. And then, yeah, I kind of just, I went a lot off of the Letterboxd watches. So on Letterboxd, you can see how many times a film has been watched or logged. And I kind of wanted to stay under like 25,000 logs.
Man, I think the highest one of mine is like 1,500 or something. And that is that's me checking them out after the fact. Like I already had all these things picked and everything. And I was like, and then Tyler showed me how you can do that. And I was like, oh shit, I never noticed that. So I'm like,
I never noticed it either. Tyler actually showed us both that.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's a fucking cool feature. And I was like, oh, yeah. So that's what that is. And I'm like, wow, these don't have very many reviews. So
right. So with that, now obviously a natural bias is going to be older films are going to be logged less just because the current state of the society, you know what I mean? So it's possible that stuff from the 60s and stuff will have very low logs that are kind of popular films, you know? Yeah. So there's that to factor in. Then also you factor in the fact that there is a Letterboxd hasn't been around for that long, or at least popular for that long. So obviously less people will have things logged based on that. But
it's that whole black and white thing, man. Did I ever tell you about I had a comment on one of my, it was one of my 31 Days of Horror, and it was, I'd reviewed some older film and it was a black and white film. And the comment was, "Ooh, gross, black and white movie."
Oh my God, dude. That would make
I'm not joking. It was like, I think that was actually word for it. It was like, "Ooh, gross, black and white movie." And I was like, what the fuck?
Dude, I told you the time that I was hanging out with this girl and we threw on Evil Dead, the original. And she was like, "Is this movie from the 1720s or something?" It looks so old.
1720s.
Don't you like get offended when like it's something that would have never crossed your mind? Someone's like, "Oh, this movie looks so old." Like,
I just laughed because I was like, dude, it's from like 1980.
dude, if you ever go to like the general Facebook like horror groups, which I kind of do like go to sometimes just to see what people are talking about, um, like they take a movie before like 2004 is old.
I feel like movies from like 2000 to like 2007 look older than they are.
Yeah.
I think
that whole digital video era. Oh,
yeah, because people are just like, we can just make a movie on a fucking digital camera. So you have all these movies from that era that look like shit.
Yeah,
well, digital now looks so much better than it did.
Well, that's because it was that digital video. It was that
one thing I noticed about really this gross. Too, like because of the 2011 movies, because like there was something about the 2011 movies I kept noticing that was like throwing me off. And it's like, I don't think people had really figured out how to like light a scene the right way with digital cameras, because a lot of like, there's almost like a soft, like washed out look to a lot of those movies.
Yeah.
I think that could also just be the style of the time too.
Like, no, I think it's just incompetency. Like, I think it's just incompetency.
Dude, I don't know, bro. I feel like there was definitely a style.
But I mean, a lot of these people that were using those type of digital video cameras were like making lower budget films. So it makes sense that the lighting wouldn't be as good. I mean, honestly, we sit here and review films and we talk about technical aspects of filmmaking and shit like that. But like in reality, like lighting scenes is actually a lot fucking harder than you think it is. It's like super hard to. It's super fucking hard to get proper lighting. That's why, like, when you watch movies that have like really, really good lighting, you're like, fuck, that's really good. That's why, like, hiring someone that really knows what they're doing with lighting and shit is a big fucking, it's a big game breaker, man, for like films.
Once you understand like how hard lighting is, it makes like people like Baba and like
it's really hard,
like so much more incredible.
Like people think that shooting outside would be easy. It's actually really hard to do, right? You got like all the shadows, you got different lighting, like it's fucking hard to do. And that's why I like technical aspects. When you see really, really beautiful looking films, you're like, God damn, dude, like they put a lot of fucking effort into this, man.
I love black and white films that bang the lighting, and you have these like perfect shadowy looking scenes, and like knowing how to bring in like the lights with the darks. Like that's some of like the deep cut mastery of film, like you just get to stumble across in the 4K era.
And some of that, like in those days too, like that old, really good, high quality black and white, 35 millimeter tape and shit like that was like, it could make a huge difference too, man. Like that really quality shit. So yeah. And then you get some of that lower budget shit and you're like, oh, wow, that looks terrible. You could have the best lighting in the world, but your film stock sucks.
Yeah.
So,
but so that's how I picked my films for the most part. It was interesting to pick the films. There's definitely a few more that I could do in another volume. There were there'll be another volume. Next time if I do one, I might not limit to 8s, because there's like a lot of films that I have at like 7.5 that are fun but aren't, that people haven't seen that, but I don't think are like
I didn't do that. Like all my movies are at least an 8 or higher on here anyways, but I didn't specifically use that as like a caveat, like it's got to be 8 or higher to be a hidden gem. Like it had nothing to do with that, because like sometimes depending on how I feel like I want to rate something, it could be higher, it could be lower. I mean, it's the entertainment and the fun factor though too. I didn't want to like pigeonhole myself. So I just kind of went with the flow on this.
It wasn't necessarily that I was trying to pigeonhole myself either. It was, I was trying to eliminate things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I did.
Come up with a criteria that would give me a smaller list of films. Because if I just went on ones that I think are hidden, I'd probably have like 100.
Right. See, I do that specifically when I'm doing like my music videos and stuff. When I'm doing my top 25 list or whatever. Like I only pick albums that are over 30 minutes. I don't have any digital albums in there. So it's the process of elimination makes it a lot easier for me to make my list, right? Mm-hmm. So it's all physical copies. They have to be 30 minutes or over, and they have to be released between, December and December, right? Kind of thing. And of that year and shit like that. So there's those specific things, but it literally eliminates hundreds and hundreds of albums because they're only digital. And then what people think is a fucking album nowadays is under 30 minutes. It's just horse shit, man. That's a fucking EP. Give me a break. But yeah, the process of elimination really does help when you're making these type of lists, because then you can get down to very specifics, right? I get that, man. I have to do that shit.
How'd you do yours, Tyler?
So I looks like I went kind of an opposite route. I was at a crossroads, kind of at between what I perceived and like if I wanted to set like a standard just to be like fair about everything. Where I was just kind of like, maybe I should just pick all movies like under 10K views or something. And I did find like a good handful under there that I would have been cool with that were like I did have eights or higher. But the movies I ended up going with are movies I would say I'm even higher on. And they're movies that are like literally some of my favorite movies ever made. I kind of like spent like a good 8 solid years, like adult years, like only watching horror movies. And I never came across any of these movies until like I kind of moved away into like other film communities too. And this is like where I kind of like hit a crossroads with my movies because they're not really that obscure in like those communities. And I kind of had to remind myself that was like these communities aren't as big as I think they are, if I'm being completely honest. And if I had never really heard of this like in horror, I don't think many people have. Like, and I was kind of like looking too. Is like I would go. I forgot what movie it was, but I picked one movie that's like kind of has a cult following, but only have like 7K views and like 10 people, 10 like horror friends like on my Letterboxd had seen it. Whereas like I kind of looked through all these movies and like there was some maybe you guys had seen and one other deep cut person, but like there was never more than like what it seemed like one or two, one fan, maybe two, that like had seen any of these movies. So I ended up going with these because these movies are all like really movies that are like really close to me, and I'd rather just like get to talk about these. And I would think a lot of like it's also I think we're all like biased to put our own personality into these. So like these are like obvious. Like, I'm sure no one's gonna be surprised. These are like very like Tyler movies from like my favorite era of film.
Right. Cute. Cool. Yeah, on that note.
Well, actually, I did want to, I don't know if you forgot about this or you were going to bring it up. So sorry for interjecting, but we're going to run a contest with this one.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So basically the way we decided was after we give the 15 films, 5 each, we are going to let it run for a month. And basically we want you guys to check out these films. That's the whole point of doing this. And every film that you check out and leave a comment on the video, put them all in one comment, probably. I don't know, maybe not, whatever. But you'll get one entry into a contest per film that you watch and leave a little review of, or it ain't got to be crazy, but don't cheese it. Don't just Google something about the movie. You know what I mean? Like, just like be legit. I know our listeners doesn't seem like the people that would just cheese it to get entries, but let the people that actually put in the work and watch the movies get the entries. You know what I mean?
Even if like you don't review it, like just like say something about it that like you liked or like you thought about or didn't.
Yeah, like you don't have to do like a full blown like long review. If you do, that would be cool. But
I feel like you got to be even more rewarding here too. So there's 15 films. If somebody actually watches all 15, they get some. We'll give them like an extra like 5 points.
You'll get 20 entries if you watch all 15.
Yeah, so you get 20 on 15. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, it's one per, and we'll let it run a month so you have some time to check out these movies. But I thought that would be a cool way to get people to actually check it out, and we'll give away something cool. I haven't really looked at what
I didn't try to fuck this up by having like the most obscure movies ever that like nobody could even find a copy to watch. All these movies are readily available, and they all have good releases for the most part, and that you can find them. So
yeah, you can
actually
find all my
two
movies
of mine are a little
easily.
harder to find.
Yeah, you can find all mine very easily, and they all have good physical releases.
I mean, I watched all these physically, but like a couple of them have really nice releases. So
yeah, but also with that, so for the prize that I give away will be US only, and then Moodz said that he will give something away for Canada.
Yeah, so if we have Canadian entries, then I'll send out something for us Canucks. So
yeah, and it's just like, sorry for the guys like out of territory. It's just tough right now with shipping and
shipping is ridiculous, man.
Yeah,
It's just so out of control.
Yeah, like half the time the item is gonna cost less than the shipping cost.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it is now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah, to put some skin in the game too, I'll send you any one of my movies that I pick, except one that we'll get to later. If you win.
All right, so that's like 3 prizes, maybe. Potentially.
Julio with the flow.
Yeah, so that I'm excited to see the feedback. And you can leave the comment on Moodz' video on the YouTube channel, because I like to keep it to one place so it's easier to
leave it on the video on my channel, because then it's so much easier to keep track of. Like, I wish, like, remember back in the day when we used to have contests on YouTube and stuff, and you used to be able to have like an entry page.
Responses.
Yeah, the viewer response. Yeah, like, so if somebody made a video response to you, it could just go into like its own little page, and then you'd click on your shit and you'd be like, oh, I got like 9 responses, and then that's how you would pick your contest winners and shit. It was awesome.
Actually, if you want to make a video, that's fine too. You can just leave the link on the comment page.
Oh, right? about the contest? Yeah,
like if you want to make a video about all the films you watched instead of writing it out.
Oh, you're talking about to the people. Okay, yeah, right. Sure.
Yeah, because I know some of our listeners make videos as well, like Caleb. Yeah. But yeah, I think this will be fun, and we'll leave it open for a month after the show post, just so people have time.
Yeah. So from the time it goes public for everybody, not just the Patreon.
Yeah, we'll do like once it's on YouTube, we'll do 30 days from the YouTube.
So this show will be live. What's the date today? Oh, it's the 17th. It's. I was going to say it's Saint Irish Day.
Carly's birthday.
I was going to say Saint Irish Day. What the fuck does that mean? Saint Irish Day. So that will be. It'll be live on the March 22nd. So it'll be open till April
22nd, which is my cousin's birthday.
22nd. So yeah, so that'll be the time frame. So get on the watches. That's a lot. That's enough time to watch a few films. I mean, we're not asking.
I mean, I watched all 5 of mine in 1 week. So
I watched all 5 of mine in 1 week.
I actually watched like 8 movies for this thing, but I just picked 5 of them. So
nice.
Yeah, I just felt like rewatching a couple of the other ones. So whatever, it is what it is. Maybe I'll do
30 minutes into one movie I was gonna pick, and I said, you know what, fuck it, and I turned it off and pivoted to a different movie.
It just wasn't holding its form, or what?
No, it's like I'll get to it when I get to the movie. I'll kind of explain it, but okay. Like there was like I just decided last second. I was like, nope, I'm gonna watch something else instead.
Interesting.
That is interesting. Did you guys see this shit about fucking like? I swear this was news like years ago. Wasn't this in fucking production, or not in production, but there was talks of it remaking Tourist Trap like a few years back? Am I just tripping on that?
I feel like there was.
I think I've heard about. Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Because I clicked on Bloody Disgusting this morning. The first thing that popped up was a Tourist Trap remake is in the works from Barbara Crampton, and I was like, "Oh, crazy!"
She just did Castle Freak. She must be remaking Full Moon Properties.
That's exactly what I was thinking, man. The first thing I saw when I saw Barbara Crampton was like, "Man, she's doing this Full Moon thing." But I swear that we talked about Tourist Trap being remade years ago. Like there must have been rumblings of it or something, and then it just never materialized. Like a lot of it's funny when you go back and listen to like the old news and shit that we used to do. So much stuff that we talked about like never happened.
Yeah. Right? Well, that's one of the fun things about reading old horror magazines too. Yeah. Like especially Fangoria. Like there was one where like Argento talked about I think Inferno had come out. And he was talking about the next in the Mother's trilogy, like way back in like the 80s.
Yeah.
And it was just so interesting because that film never came out until, much later, whenever budgets and different things changed.
Like 2004 or 5. Like when was Mother of Tears? 2004?
6? 2004 sounds kind of right, honestly.
It's in that era.
I have that DVD of that still.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean... Actually, it does have a Blu-ray though, doesn't it? It was released on Blu-ray.
I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Or maybe it wasn't, but man,
I think it's like there's like 4 Argento films that have not hit Blu-ray. I think it's like Do You Like Hitchcock, Giallo, and then Mother Tears. Unless there is a Blu-ray.
I swear there is, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I only have the DVD. I think there is.
There's probably a UK Blu-ray.
Yeah, I think there is. I think there is a region 1 though. I'm pretty fucking sure. Because Mother of Tears was released on the Extreme Dimension line, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm pretty fucking sure they put out a Blu-ray. I could be totally wrong, man.
They
like
didn't do they mostly just did do Blu-rays at the end of the life cycle of that.
Yeah.
Though.
They did.
That's like most of the DVDs I still have.
And they only did a few of them. Like I know they did the Feast movie. Like they did Feast, right? They did Feast.
Just Feast 1, and then they did Hellraiser and Children of the Corn Genesis.
Right.
They did Eden Lake. That's one of the ones I have.
Really? They did the shit, man. Because like,
did they really?
I was thinking
that's one of the few DVDs.
Oh, they
I
did
have.
do.
A lot of the DVDs I have left in my collection are like stuff like on Dimension Extreme or 8 Films to Die For.
Yeah, a lot of those 8 Films to Die For films never saw Blu-ray. Actually, in fact, I just got one in the mail the other day that was released by Ronin Flicks. You guys remember the movie Nightmare Man? It was with Tiffany Shepard. It was part of one of the 8 Films to Die For. That movie got released on Blu-ray through Ronin Flicks out of so fucking random because pretty much all those movies don't have a Blu-ray release. It's like it's weird. Like they just never did them. So, but yeah, that one got a random Blu-ray release from Ronin Flicks. So I actually just got it in the mail on Friday. So I was looking to rewatch it because
Inside is Dimension Extreme also, right?
Yep. That's one that.
Well, it's got the second sight Blu-ray. It's got the second sight Blu-ray, which is all region, I believe. I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's the 4K, right? Didn't they do a 4K of it? Or no?
Yes or no? I can't remember. Yeah, they did that in Frontiers.
Ooh.
But there's actually like such a great. I actually love that era for home video because
there was a lot of good movies.
The first time we were starting to see like foreign films like that, and like Tartan Asian Extreme was like where we were first starting to get these films that played in festivals that were like widely available in the US.
Yeah.
Like you had like even something like Teeth is awesome. Like that movie I think is great.
Teeth is amazing.
And
that's
then
the
Black Sheep is super fun. There was a lot of good titles on that line. Yeah. I mean, there was a few bad ones too, but
of course. It was like the 8 Films to Die For. Like I think it was season 3 was pretty weak. Like there was only like 2 or 3 good ones, but like they're still really fun to watch, man. Like the quality of the films I think
the first season is really good.
Yeah, I think the first 2 are really. I think the 4th one has some gems in it too. Actually,
yeah, I would actually. That's another show we talked about doing all 8 of them.
Right.
I think that would be fun.
It would be super fun to do. And I really like that era too, man. There was a lot of fun stuff. Like I just felt like the quality of the films was really decent for what they were. You know, they weren't like super low budget shot on video films. These were like real fucking, production films that turned out pretty well. So
yeah, I really got into like horror like right after this era. So a lot of these films were like fresh in like the public conscious and like were being accepted as like some of the best like modern horror movies. So I think that was like a really good thing for me at the time to like get introduced into foreign horror like right into it and like it right out of the bat.
Yeah.
What's this Leprechaun reboot stuff, man? So like they're not going to make a sequel to the Astron 6 film? They're just going to like reboot the whole like the original franchise?
Well, you got to keep in mind when they say like a lot of times when studios say reboot, it doesn't necessarily mean
it just means.
Was there new news that came out today or something?
Yeah, it was March 15th. This is 2 days ago. It says Leprechaun reboot director Felipe Vargas teases his vision for the franchise's reinvention. So I'm assuming that they're like redoing the original story.
They're saying practical effects at least.
But like it just sounds like they're going to take the original concept and just reinvent it. So
Bring back Warwick.
It's weird, like because they just did a sequel. They just did a fucking sequel, which I thought was really good, and then they're going to reinvent the franchise. What? Fuck, man, these franchises are so weird. Like it's like trying to keep track of Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequels and where they go in the franchise and shit. It's like ridiculous, man. So ridiculous. But I thought for sure that they would play off the last film from Steven Konstantinsky, whatever his name is. Kostansky. I always can never say
that. I don't know what that really means. Like, is it going to just be a remake of the first film?
That's what it sounds like. They're going to take the original idea and just reinvent it. I don't know what reinvent means because if you're remaking something, you're kind of using the same concept. You're not reinventing anything.
The Leprechaun Returns is like sort of like a Like you could consider that a reboot, even though it's a sequel, because it's sort of
the
like
way we've talked about remakes or like reboots. Like the term reboot to me is just kicking the franchise back into high gear. Right. They hadn't made one in so long that it's technically rebooting it because you're putting the name Leprechaun franchise back in the fucking
booting it back up.
Right.
You're shut off and now
you're literally booting it back up with a fucking boot. Right. You know, I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, it's Leprechaun. I mean, it's
when did Leprechaun Returns come out?
Fuck, it was got to be like 5 years ago now, or maybe I don't know. It just seems like time is ripping
2018, bro.
So it was like 6 years. Fuck, that's crazy, dude.
That is a long time, man.
It seems like it just came out, and that's what I'm saying.
I know,
like,
bro,
I thought it was really solid, man. I remember when people were tripping shit on.
No, it's awesome, and it holds up, and it was exactly what we needed after fucking Origins.
Oh God!
And even the guy, the Lyndon Parco guy that played Leprechaun, like, yeah, he didn't seem the same as Warwick Davis, but he was at least good. Like, he just was different.
Yeah,
I thought he was a cool Leprechaun, and I was very happy with him. If we're gonna not have Warwick, who is, in my opinion, just amazing,
he wasn't Jackie as fucking Freddy.
Yeah, like, and I love that they brought back Ozzy. That was cool. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like a sequel. I like that about it.
Well, I mean, the narrative was the sequel, right? I mean, it was her daughter and shit, right? So
yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, no, it was really awesome, and I watched it probably 4 times now, and I've liked it every time I watched it.
I think it's legit, man. Like, people are always like, a lot of people shit on Astron 6 stuff, but those people are fucking stupid because Astron 6 is awesome. But like, I mean, that's a pretty serious film. Like, it's not like, it could have been straight up Astron 6 goofy and silly and shit, but it wasn't.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he took a different approach to it, and I think it really fucking worked. But I mean, they can be serious at times, not overly too serious.
Well, that's what I don't know. That's why I like the first 3, because, like, yeah, the Leprechaun is kind of a little goofy and silly, but like, what's happening to all the characters?
Well, he's one-liners, right? It's all one-liners. I mean, you can't help but be like, that's goofy as shit, because you got a fucking leprechaun giving you one-liners throughout a film. Like, I mean, that's a comedy, but I got no problem with it. It's fun. So
I actually just watched part 1, 2, and 3 yesterday.
I was actually thinking about popping in part 3 tonight. Actually, I never seem to ever watch like Leprechaun films like on St. Paddy's Day or nothing. I always forget. It's just one of those days that just kind of comes and goes, especially on a Sunday where, you know, like, we're recording. My mind's invested in this and shit. I'm not really thinking. I didn't even realize it was St. Paddy's Day until I looked at the fucking. I was like, oh shit, it's St. Patrick's Day. It's crazy,
dude. I think Leprechaun 2 is surpassing the first one for me.
I think I like
the first one more than 2.
Yeah, I think I've always, I don't know, when we did the franchise, I think like part 3, part 2, part 1, I think that's the way it was, even the way I liked them when we rewatched at that time.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it went.
It's like, dude, it's just fun. Like, the actual story is like really cool. Like, I like the Morty character is the best.
Mm-hmm.
He's just so sleazy.
Postmaster P.
And there's actually stuff that I didn't notice in Leprechaun 2 that I did this time. Like, there's like a part in the movie where Morty complains about his stomach hurting or being upset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like foreshadowing to his death, which I'd never noticed before.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a minute. I think the last time I watched those movies was when we did the franchise. Like, how many years ago did we do the Leprechaun franchise?
I watch Leprechaun like
we still have roundups on
when I was a kid.
It was episode 13, I think, dude.
There is literally 2 Leprechaun movies that we didn't even do. That's how long ago it was.
It was 2014, I would probably say.
So we haven't done 2 films, Origins and the fucking Returns.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy, dude. That's how long ago we did it, man. That was fun. I think we were like tripping shit on the Postmaster P shit, right? Like,
yeah,
were we arguing about that shit? Or something?
Yeah, because it's a bullshit idea. This guy
is funny though,
all about positivity and shit like that, and then you're gonna go rob people, bro. You're like fake as fuck,
dude. That's hypocrite shit at its finest, right there, man.
Yeah, but like, I actually enjoy Leprechaun in the Hood. Like,
I mean, they're honestly like pretty bad. But like, they're fun. I mean,
I think Lep in the Hood 2 is actually like pretty good.
Well, Lep in the Hood 2, is that the one with Ice-T or is it the first one?
No, that's the first one.
Okay, I can't even fucking remember, man. But Ice-T's my boy, man. I love Ice-T.
Of course.
In fact, I was listening.
Especially when he pulls a baseball bat out of his afro.
Right. Yeah. So good.
But no, it's like, honestly, like it's just like a funny concept. Like seeing the leprechaun get all stoned and fucking like he's just a nut, bro. Like in part 2, when he comes out of the tree and he drinks the dude's fucking whiskey, he's like, Canadian blend.
Yeah.
The only whiskey is Irish whiskey.
Canadian blend. Oh, that's
Dude,
gross, man.
I love him, bro. He's
Canadian
so fucking
club.
great, dude.
Oh man.
That first movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Me too. It actually was one of the scariest movies I ever watched.
Yeah, I saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel and it fucking like scared me. It scared the shit out of me.
I rented it on VHS. Dude, you know what? I was so scared of Leprechaun that you know how like when you'd rent a VHS, like a lot of times, like if you rented a Trimark VHS, it would show trailers to
that was like
beforehand.
Yeah, that was
the
like
Leprechaun was on like every single one, and every time it would start, I would get nervous. The trailer.
Speaking of Leprechaun, man, that picture that Neil posted in the group page had me rolling this morning, man. It's the first thing I fucking saw this morning. He's like, it's not a fake picture, and it's got your face on fucking Warwick Davis's on the Leprechaun.
Wait, really? In our group?
You never saw that today? Oh, he posted your face.
I slept till like 4:00 today.
Oh, dude, just check on the group page. I fucking laughed right away. It was literally the first thing I saw this morning. Have you seen it? And his caption was, this poster's not fake. This poster's not fake.
That's not the first time he's posted that places.
Well, it's perfect, right? And I didn't even clue in why he posted, but it's because it's St. Paddy's Day. Fuck, I'm like out of it today, man. I'm totally fucking out of it. Whatever, man. Too much fresh air last night. But did you end up watching the fights last night?
No, because I was in Ohio.
Well, I fucking recorded them, and then I came inside the house way too late to watch them. So yeah, I just haven't recorded. I have no idea who won.
Watching Leprechaun 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
and then I started 4, but I fell asleep.
Oh, you actually put on part 4? Ugh.
I give an order, bro.
God.
And the last year I ended on returns, so that means that this St. Patrick's Day I start from the beginning again.
Right.
And I'll probably at least get to In the Hood tonight, I would assume. But I'm skipping, I'll do Origins like every couple years because like it's not good, bro. And it doesn't even feel like Leprechaun. So annoying.
Yeah.
But no, 4 has I've come up on 4 a little bit. I think it's just a parody. It's like it's a satire of like Alien and just a bunch of movies.
Oh, totally.
But it's just dude. You know what's actually cool about Leprechaun 4 is it has Spider from Return of the Living Dead in it, and he's like the best character.
Right, he is in that too, right?
Yeah, I totally forgot that was him and Demon from Part 5 of Friday until I met him. Right, and I see he had Leprechaun 4 merch on his table, and I was
shit, that's crazy.
Totally forgot.
Wow, crazy.
Because he's like one of my favorite characters in Return of the Living Dead. He's like the coolest. I think he's the one that like is the most like not idiot in Return of the Living Dead. And then he's just awesome in Friday 5 too as Demon.
Right.
I like that guy. He's a funny dude.
Yeah, he's got a couple really memorable roles for sure.
Yeah, he's super nice in
Nunez
person. Yeah, Miguel Nunez. Yep. He's super nice in person too. What a nice guy.
He doesn't have that Jerry curl anymore, does he?
I hope he does. That'd be so
No,
sick.
he's like
Friday Jerry curl, man. That
he's actually like very thin, and he wasn't. I felt like he was a lot shorter than I pictured him.
Well, he must be short. It's like coming from you.
Tall.
I have a picture with him.
I was surprised like how short Jeffrey Combs was.
Yeah, Jeffrey Combs he's short, man.
He's a little guy. I was surprised how small he is.
Yeah, I got a picture with Jeffrey Combs and I was like, wow, dude, you are very small. Like I'm 6'1", so I'm not short. But yeah, he's pretty short.
I'm short, and I was bigger than him.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yep. All right, so I guess that's everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Everything.
Okay. So I guess we're gonna get into these hidden gems here in a minute. So stay tuned.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Have you checked the children?
What do we do?
Why don't we just wait here for a little while? See what happens.
All right, so getting into the featured reviews, is that what I don't know. Hidden gems. We're gonna do some hidden gems. Yeah, they're not really featured reviews.
The diamonds in the rough.
The diamonds in the rough. The underrated, the overlooked. However you want to classify it, we're calling it hidden gems. So it's pretty self-explanatory. We talked about it off the top of the show. JP, you want to lead us off here?
Yeah. Okay. So the very first film I picked was a film that instantly I thought about whenever we had suggested this show. And mainly just because I don't ever really remember people talking about it very much, like when it came out. So the film is titled, it's a found footage film, and it's titled Capture, Kill, Release from the year 2016. Have either of you guys seen this?
I've heard of it, I've never seen it.
Yeah, I watched it. I think when it came out.
Okay, so you've seen it. Don't have it logged.
So it was, yeah, well, that was that's pre Letterboxd for me.
Okay. Yeah, so this movie, I believe it was actually sent to me as a screener under midnight releasing, I think back in the day.
Right.
And I remember watching it and thinking it was really good. So it's a found footage film, and it's very small cast, pretty low budget. It only had 1,015 people log it on Letterboxd.
Wow.
Which is pretty low. And I think that since it's been on Tubi, it's gotten a little bit more views than when I had seen it. It was a film that I think was an honorable mention in my top 10 that year. I don't think it actually made my top 10 list, but it was pretty close. That was a very competitive year. It follows this couple, just two characters, Farhang and Jennifer, and they are recording their basically a diary into them eventually killing someone. So it starts off with them like, planning it and shopping for like shovels and different stuff like that. And at first it's just kind of interesting because you're like, are they really going to do this? And, just hearing them discuss like, oh, well, we need like, she's like, let's get one shovel. And he's like, so what? I'm just going to dig the whole thing, Let's get two shovels. It's going to take long if one person's digging, like stuff like that, just the casualness of them talking about the murder they're going to commit. And I think the one, if people don't like it, it's going to be because of the acting, because the acting is a bit interesting, where it's sort of off-putting to, and can come off a little unbelievable.
Well, I must have hated it because me with acting and found footage. It's a big fucking deal. It's a big fucking deal for me.
I don't think that it's like bad acting. I just think that it's off-putting to people in terms of like how they would expect people to act. Whereas they're so casual about murdering someone, you know what I mean? Where it might feel like too cynical in a way for people, and it might come off unbelievable. But I will go back to the Scream tapes that we talked about a while back, and it's almost like an exact copy of how those two were talking about murdering people. Like, and I hadn't seen those tapes when I watched this.
Yeah, that's almost like when I was watching that Dateline, I was like, man, it felt like they were sociopaths. They were talking about it so calm because that's kind of what sociopaths are like. Like they can fucking kill you and then just eat dinner. And go on with their shit. Like that's how it felt like to me, man. Like sociopathic, where there's no emotion involved, but you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna go slit her throat. Like,
right. And like, and hearing them sort of like plan it and just like, it almost is like they're planning it like it's a video game, like it's not actually going to happen. And that's how it comes off in this movie. But the excitement
at the point in the car in that was so disturbing to me.
Yeah.
They were so excited. Like it was fucked to me. Oh, dude, that's crazy. Yeah.
And so that I think that like it might be off-putting to some people just because they're like, there's no way a couple, like a girl and a guy, would like talk about murdering someone and be serious about it in this way. It just doesn't feel realistic. But it's because you're a normal person and you wouldn't do that, right? But if you actually watch like some like those Scream tapes, like you'd be surprised at how people actually are that commit murders. They're not normal.
That's a good contrast too, because like that's totally, you know, in retrospect, that's found footage too, right? It's literally real, but like watching that, you're just like, God damn, dude. Like, fuck.
It actually made me like this a little bit more after seeing that specific case, because I was like, and to be honest, this was the one that came down a little bit for me. So I had this originally at 8.5 back in 2016.
So you got this as a screener for Midnight? Like I must,
like
because I was still reviewing for them. Maybe at this time too, because I did a lot of, and you know what's really funny actually, that you were talking about this one from them is I have Blood Punch on a list. Like I don't know if I'll ever do it as a hidden gem, but like
that's so stupid, bro. That was on my list too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
I almost picked it. Yeah.
That's so crazy because I remember when I first watched it, I was like, man, this movie's fucking cool.
It was around the same time. It was like a year. It was like a couple months before Capture Kill release.
Because I know I did a review for them for that movie.
Yeah, I remember you talking about Blood Punch.
Yeah,
that was criminally underseen.
Dude, it was just one of those films where you go into expecting it to be whatever, but then it's like so good. It's like, fuck, man. It was, pretty cool.
It is good. So the Capture Kill release, the first part of the film is them just planning the murder, talking about it. Then they decide to kidnap a cat and kill it just because the natural progression of things,
Okay, I remember this now.
Sort of like, you know, as a test. And you pretty much see it going in a territory where like Farhang, the male, seems to like really been okay with this just being a fantasy type thing and not an actual thing that they're going to do. And you could see he's getting very much cold feet as it gets closer and closer to actually happening. Mm-hmm. And you can relate to him like a lot more, you know what I mean? Where it seemed like he was sort of just like following along with his crazy girlfriend because it's like what she was into. And whenever a problem with films, and I don't know if it's really a problem, but oftentimes I either like root for the killer or like sympathize with the killer, or like maybe it's just the underdog thing where like in sports, like if I don't care about the teams, I'll often root for the underdog just because it makes it more interesting. But this is a film where that does not apply. Like you actively hate the girl in the film, the Jennifer. She is gross. She's just a bad person. Mm-hmm. And she's just awful. And that is actually very effective, but I feel like some people will be annoyed by her, whereas I just don't. Like sometimes people get annoyed by a character and it makes them not like the movie. Whereas like me, it just makes me hate the character. But I'm okay with hating a character.
I think the intention here is to deliver that to the
That's
viewer.
The thing. Like, you shouldn't just like every character at face value. I kind of I get annoyed almost when some people use it as a criticism. It's like, well, I couldn't stay on the character, so I just like the movie sucked. It's like, maybe you're not supposed to. Like,
well, this is a great example of you're supposed to not like them. Like they're just evil. Like it's bad, or she's evil.
There's a scene where the movie really starts picking up when she meets this homeless guy named Gary, who is just the sweetest fucking dude
Gary
in the world, bro. And you're like, please don't kill this guy. Like, he's just so nice and like thankful that she's like helping him, feeding him, like giving him dinner.
I don't remember.
And he's just like such a sweetie. Like you're like, man, don't kill Gary, bro. And it's funny because they just start calling him Gary, and it's just like it's fucked up. But like Farhang comes home and Gary's in their house.
Oh,
and
I remember
he
this.
instantly knows like what's going on, and he gets so panicked. His acting is actually really good. Because he just realized, oh shit, this is for real. Like she actually wants to do this. Like this is like, I don't want to do this. I changed my mind. Like please no type thing. And you just see the panic in him, and it's really well delivered. And there is a murder in the film. I won't say who or anything, but it's pretty graphic. Like it's like disposing of the body, like kind of goes on for a while. Kind of remind me of Alice Kills a little bit, how like that goes on for a while. But I feel like it's a very realistic like approach at like, okay, we killed someone. Now what the heck? Like it's obviously disposing of a body, cutting it up into pieces and stuff is going to be a long process. And I feel like they do a really good job of like showcasing just the uncomfortable nature of that and like just the disturbing aspect of it. So yeah, I think it's a really solid watch that not a lot of people have seen. It is available on Tubi. It was directed by.
So it's probably cut then.
Uh-oh.
No, I don't think it was. Nick McAnulty and Brian Stewart are the directors of this film, and it's their only film. They've never done anything else. And I think for a first film, it feels like one of those films where like maybe it was student filmmakers who like got out of film school, and I'm just speculating here, just what it feels like, and made this movie. That's what it kind of feels like. But it was like sort of lightning in a bottle type thing where it turned out really good. Just because there's literally like 5 cast members in the entire movie. It's all like handheld cameras. It doesn't have like like you could just tell there's no way this thing had a massive budget. The actors don't feel like they're established. In fact, Farhang only has done 5 films, none of which I've heard of. And Jennifer has done 1 film. This is her only film.
Wow.
So kind of just weird that nothing came about it, but it's a solid movie. Good for a Valentine's Day watch, romance horror kind of thing. Really disturbing. I gave it 8.5 last time. I dropped it to an 8. I think the last time I watched it, I was so like taken back by just how like the shocking level of it. Whereas this time going into it, I knew what was going to happen, and it wasn't quite as effective. But it's still very solid. I definitely recommend people check it out if you have not seen it, which I don't think a lot of people have.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that's actually pretty impressive. I wasn't expecting something like that. Like it's low budget, and it was Midnight that did that one. It wasn't Brain Damage. It was Midnight.
I'm pretty sure it was the spider. Is that Midnight?
Yeah, that's Midnight.
The spider logo. I think it was Midnight. Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to get like films from both, and I would always like, who released this, Brain Damage or Midnight Releasing? Because it was like the same people that would always send me this shit. I always
I know. So. But Steve worked out there, right?
Yeah, well, actually, that was actually when Steve was working for Midnight Brain Damage, so I was getting a ton of those films at the time.
Yeah,
and some of those things were just disgusting, man. Ugh.
Shout out to our boy Steve.
Yeah, man. What's up, Steve? Yeah, man. He doing well, man. He gained a shit ton of weight and then he lost all the weight.
Yeah.
See that? So
yeah. That's a homie from way back.
Yeah, he's been on the show.
Started YouTube,
dude. What was it the Jack Frost show?
It was the Jack Frost,
and his mom
episode
and then he's like talking to his mom, and his mic was still live.
67 or something. Yeah, yeah.
It was so unprofessional. It was like the most fucking funny thing ever, dude. Just kept it in the show too. Didn't even bother to edit it out or nothing. It was ridiculous. Fucking mute your microphone, man. Fuck. It was so funny. Shit, that's good times, man. All right, so my go, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So first film up here for tonight, and yeah, these aren't ranked or nothing. It's just
I should have said that too. Not ranked at all. I didn't even put them in order of release or anything. I just put them in order that I watched them.
Yeah, I literally the way they're written is just the way I'm going to talk about them. Like I said, there's no rhyme to the reason. So, but this particular film, we're going to go back to 1964. It's been released by Dark Sky Films. I believe it just has a DVD release. It looks good. And it's called The Flesh Eaters. Have you guys?
What year?
1964.
Ooh.
And it's one of those.
Speaking my language.
It's one of those gross black and white movies.
Jack Curtis. Jack Curtis is that guy's good. That guy made Nope, this is not who I thought it was. Just
no,
kidding.
I did the same thing, bro. When I looked up Jack, this is the only movie he directed.
I was thinking Jack Arnold. Because this looks like something Jack Arnold would have made.
Well, somebody with a name like Jack Curtis, you just would expect to have like 30, films that he directed and stuff. But like, no, this guy directed this movie. I think he has a voice cameo in it, and he did like a lot of voice work. That was like his thing.
No, I've never seen this.
No, I've never heard of this.
Okay, so I got this DVD. Oh shit, dude. I don't know when this, probably 10, 12 years ago. Like I would buy, a lot of stuff from Dark Sky Films because they always release interesting movies to me, right? Knew nothing of this movie. And I just liked the title. And I was like, oh, it's from 1964. It's a black and white film called The Flesh Eater. I'm like, how bad can it be? So I picked it up just, as a blind buy and watched it and loved it. And I'd never and I've watched this movie a couple times throughout the years. And I've never heard anyone talk about this movie. And it always blew my mind a little bit because it was released by Dark Sky. Dark Sky Films is a pretty big, boutique label, right? Like they put out a lot of big stuff. I mean, obviously their big releases, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? But they put out a lot of really good stuff over the years, but I never heard anyone talk about this movie. It's strange. So basically the premise is pretty simple. It's basically about this Hollywood actor. She's like a big name in Hollywood and she's got an assistant and stuff. And they basically, they need to take a flight somewhere. And so they board this guy's plane and stuff like that. Anyways, weather gets really shitty up in the air and they have to land on like a deserted island, which they think is a deserted island anyways. So they end up on this island where they come across this like totally insane, almost like Nazi scientist on there, but they don't know. They just think that this guy says that he's just on the island doing a bunch of tests and things like that and stuff like that. But they soon realize that there's something wrong that's in the water. And ultimately what's happening is this like Nazi scientist,
the water.
Because this Nazi scientist is like stolen a bunch of he's actually technically not even a Nazi. He actually stole a bunch of the shit from the Nazis to kind of create like this like flesh eating kind of like bacteria and stuff like that. So he was testing it out in the water and it was like, so if you went into the water, it would like attach itself to you and it would basically just fucking eat you. It would like erode you and shit. It's pretty gnarly. So anyways, it's basically about these people that are on this island and they're basically, they're trying to get off the island to get to go where they need to go and stuff like that. And of course you got this crazy scientist and shit. So like really the appeal of the film for myself, I love like crazy scientist movies. I love this type of shit. And it's set on an island and it's got a really small cast and everyone like the acting in this movie is fantastic. Like everyone's really, really good. Like the lead actress in this film who plays, it's funny too, because she's a total lush. She's this big Hollywood actress and she's fucking drunk all the time. And she plays it really well. Her assistant's cool. And then they have this like totally random moment in the film where this guy like shows up on like a life, like, like one of those homemade kind of life raft things or whatever. He just like shows up on the island, but this guy I think totally steals the show. Like, he's kind of like this hippie character and shit like that. But the one thing about this movie that's really cool is it's 1964 and the effects are actually pretty cool. Like there's a lot of like old school type effecting where, you do the overlay and stuff like that. But to many people's surprise, if you watch this movie, is it's actually pretty gory. Like it's got some like actual gore to it and stuff. And it was always kind of deemed as like a very early kind of gore film and stuff, which I didn't know after, even my first couple watches and stuff. But I was like always kind of taken back by some of the scenes of people getting, eaten away by this, this flesh eating bacteria and stuff like that. And it would like fuck their legs up and you get like, totally, all messed up and shit. And it looked pretty cool. Like I like the effects in it and stuff. There's some like pretty surprising moments in the film, like, and like who dies and like when they die and stuff like that. So that was kind of shocking too. So I think it's a really good movie, man. It's super fun. If you like these kind of mad scientist films, And it goes really batshit in the third act too. Like it just goes insane. What it turns into is like it's so awesome, dude. It's so awesome. So if you like, like mad scientists and creature feature type films and a little bit of gore. I mean, remember it's 1964, it's black and white and stuff. It's not going to be like you're watching fucking Dead Alive or anything. But it still has its moments, man. It's pretty cool. But to me, this is like the definition of a hidden gem because you go to Letterboxd and this one has like 1.2 thousand reviews on it. So I feel like that's not overly seen, right? That's pretty
not
low.
even reviews.
That's like
that's how many times it was logged.
That's how many times it was logged.
This is like wicked obscure.
So it says 1,222 members have logged this movie. And like, I thought this was the coolest feature. Thank you, Tyler, for showing me this because I had no idea. Like, I just liked this movie. I just thought it was kind of a really cool early 60s mad scientist kind of like, creature feature in, film that really no one ever talked about. And apparently no one's ever seen really. So, I think it's pretty fucking cool. You got to check it out, man. I just don't want to give too much away. Like that's all these movies that I'm going to talk about tonight. It's like almost hard to talk about them a little bit.
We definitely don't want to spoil these considering most people.
That's what I'm saying. Like I really don't want to give too much. There's a couple movies that are really kind of interesting to talk about because you really don't want to spoil them for the viewers. And if you haven't seen them, and I feel like they probably haven't seen them. So, but yeah, The Flesh Eaters from 1964, really, really fun film. Like it's one of those film. It would be like a great movie to watch it at like a drive-in with a bunch of people and shit. Cause like it's fun. I think it's really well made too. I mean, obviously the effects at times, like the overlay and stuff like that is, some people might be like, okay, it's 1964 people. Okay. They did what they could. And I think it looks pretty fucking cool to be honest, but it's got some really neat ideas and it plays off the whole, the whole Nazi shit. And then there's even vibes of like Hitler and like Eva Braun and stuff like that in this and stuff. It's really crazy what they're doing and shit. It's pretty nuts. So, but yeah, good stuff, man. The Flesh Eaters, if it sounds up your alley, give it a watch, get an entry and, enjoy. It's fun. Really fun film.
What did you rate that one?
Oh, I give that. What did I rate that movie? I think I give it a 8 out of 10.
Sweet.
Yeah, really fun.
Yeah, it sounds like something I would like, honestly.
It's fun, man. It's really fun. All right, Tyler.
All right. So, overall, I kind of do have a sort of theme-ish to my list unintentionally, but I kind of at the end of it narrowed down my choices to fit this same theme. But I'm going to present them all chronologically, and they kind of blend. They kind of like pair group together how I want them anyway. So this one, this is a movie that I feel like I'm always the one to bring this to the conversation. Every once in a while, I get someone that's heard of it. I know JP's seen this. I'd kind of be surprised if Mood has it, but we're gonna say in 1964. I have Masaki Kobayashi's Kwaidan as my first entry. Kwaidan.
Have you seen that, Moodz?
Yeah, I own it. Yeah, it's a good move. Good movie.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Criterion release.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if all of these are Criterion releases.
Right? It's funny. I was actually thinking like I'm like, what Criterion movies is he gonna have on his list?
So yeah.
Oh yeah, this movie sucks.
JV doesn't like this movie apparently. But,
no. It has like 2 really good segments.
No, we reviewed this on the show, didn't we?
It was Dave.
I don't know if that review
Jeremy
ever came out though.
Dave and Jeremy did a joint one, and that was it a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah,
And
I remember talking about
honestly, I probably would have heard like that review years ago and just been like, okay, I'm never watching that. Like, as funny as that sounds.
Yeah, I was supposed to do that too, but I couldn't, but I did watch the movie for it.
But yeah, I really, really love this movie. It comes from Masaki Kobayashi, who's probably like top 3 most important directors to Japan and was kind of the hot shit at this time. And he was like a pacifist and in response made a lot of like politically like charged films. And this one was where he kind of like stepped back from all of that and wanted to make one like kind of like embracing his heritage. So what this is like this is an anthology film based on 4 really popular Japanese folklore stories. It's kind of similar. It's like really like popular like within the book that these are from within the culture, kind of like how Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark would be in America.
Mhm.
But they're a little bit more like obviously uniquely Japanese and a little bit more like violent than like what the result of that book's film was. But yeah, this was like a big budget film at the time too. This was the first movie he got to shoot in color, and before he was a director, he was a painter, so he really wanted to like massage like that like visual ish he had, and like it was never like it. So what like stylistically with this movie,
This was most of this is on a set, right?
it's all on a set. And
Yeah.
like that, a lot of
I
that's
remember
like
seeing that.
yeah, and like a lot of that's like intentional. They weren't ever trying to make it like look like it was like a real like
Well,
really. Like,
it
in the
looks
setting.
like fantasy when you
Exactly.
when you do like a set like that. So
yeah,
yeah,
they
I
were
do
in
believe
giant.
it's intentional
yeah.
to look like fantasy.
Yeah, they were like in giant airplane hangars and all had like hand painted like sets in the backgrounds, all like on like a giant like stage. And they were made to like look like images of a painting. It just as like something like beautiful that like an artist created as opposed to like trying to like replicate like a naturalistic scene of that. So like that's why like the film's like very colorful. It's shot extremely well, and it's like at the time it was the most expensive Japanese movie ever made. It's got like, and it's like if I could sell this movie all to you, just like Google like screenshots to like see what I'm talking about, because it's so hard to like describe. And like this is like really like the big like selling point of this movie, because this like compared with like the cinematography and the music, it's really just like wicked atmospheric. It's honestly the perfect movie I would recommend to watch like around like Halloween, like late at night, which does kind of pose challenge. This movie is 3 hours long in Japanese, but it's just like
I remember like just one of the stories not being as good as the other ones.
The Woman in the Snow was great. And then I can't remember the other two, but I remember one with like a ship or something that was boring. Maybe there was one that I didn't like at all, and it just
that's probably where this movie falls apart from you, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, The Woman in the Snow is a great one.
But combined with the music, the music in this was done by Takamiso Toru. He's like
black hair, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the first story.
Yeah.
But like the music in this film was done by him, and he's like he would be like comparable to like an Ennio Morricone in Japan at the time. Like he was the guy musically. So this movie like sounds like incredible. And another reason I might like this, because the guy like really that adapted this, his name was like adapted the story this is based off. His name was Lafcadio Hearn, and he was some sort of European guy living in Japan that had a Japanese wife. He couldn't speak or write in Japanese, but he like loved the culture so much that he wrote this book on like Japanese like folklore, and like it was like a big part of introducing this like to the West. So like maybe this is like more appealing to Western sensibilities because of that. But yeah, it has 4 stories. The first one is The Hair, which is it's about a man that abandons his wife for like a greater like appointment within the government, and he spends time there. He regrets it, and then he goes to return home. And like, I can't really talk about the stories much because they're all like they're all pretty short. The Lady in the Snow, the one you guys, this one is so beautifully visually, like there's like
the first 2 stories are great.
Mm-hmm.
They're both. I love them both. And see, this is where it falls. Like I think Lady in the Snow is the second best one, and we're big. We're at a big difference. I think the third one's the best one. I love the third one.
What happened in the third one?
The third one's the ship one you don't like.
Okay, and what's the fourth one?
The fourth one's kind of isn't very deep. It's pretty straightforward. It's the in a teacup one. That one's definitely the worst one.
What happens in it though? Like just
the guy's like seeing like the reflection of a samurai in his teacup, and he drinks it, and he's getting haunted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one was okay.
Yeah,
it's really that third one that bogged it down for me. But the first 2 were actually.
Is the third one the longest one too?
The third one is actually so like the first one's like 30, like I think about 40 minutes. The second one is about like 37, 30, something like that, but similar to the first. The third one is 75 minutes long.
Right. That's
Right.
right.
It's a
I remember that one being the fucking it's a whole movie.
Yeah, so it's like its own feature within that, and I really love that one though. It's like that one I think has like the coolest story, and it's just like it gets so fleshed out. Basically, the story in this one is like It's about a famous Japanese battle. What is it called? It's the Battle of Donoura between the Terra and the Minamoto clans, and I guess like it was this
It's
giant
called the California Roll.
Well, it's this giant historical battle. I guess I don't know enough about it. I know the basics.
California Roll.
Like part of it was like instead of being captured, like a lot of these samurais like jump to their death. Like these warriors jump to their death and drown like in this lake, and then they're here like centuries later. And there's this story is called Hoichi the Earless. And Hoichi is a biwa player, which is this really kind of annoying, I'll give it that, like Japanese like ancient instrument, and he's blind. So he just like plays this all day. And he was playing like a chant, like as an ode to that battle, and it made like the soldiers who died in this battle rise, and he was playing the music for them, and they would lead him away like every night into like their own underworld. And since he was blind, he knew he was playing for prestige, but like he was basically getting like taken by the underworld, and he's like forced to play for them every night, and it goes in like kind of a crazy way. All these stories have a really good conclusion. I thought like the payoff on all these was like excellent. I thought the placement for all the stories is right too, because if you think about it, with the super long one, you kind of do have to put that through, because you get your excitement running with the first two because they're a little faster paced. You slow down for this one, and yeah, the fourth one's the worst, and I usually wouldn't recommend like the fourth one being like your anchor in an anthology, but like you're kind of burnt by like the last one. So by the long ones, but the last one's only like 27 minutes long, and it's like really straightforward. So it's kind of just like a little dessert on the way out.
I've always had a problem like with sorry to cut you off, but like I've always had a problem with anthologies that don't like have similar lengths to their stories. Like if you're going to have a 40-minute 37, then you're going to have a 75. It just feels like it's almost out of place. It's like
the longer ones are even longer than they actually are.
Right. Because like I feel like with anthologies, they should be all around the same kind of time stamp. You know what I mean? To kind of have that flow. Because like you go from two films or two shorts that are relatively the same length to a really long one to the shortest one. Like that seems so unbalanced to me, man. It's crazy. Like I can see as a viewer that shit taking you right out of it.
It did when I first watched this. It definitely did.
It didn't bother me the first time, and I think like knowing like this is how it was the second time, and I like having a couple years to like sit on it after watching this movie, like it's just like it didn't really like mean anything at all to me at this point.
I do definitely think, even though I didn't like that third segment that much, I think I still gave this film like an 8. I definitely recommend checking it out, especially for historical purposes, because it does seem like a very important Japanese film.
I think we were all pretty high on our ratings on this, because you can't deny the aspect of like it's really fucking well made, and it's decent for what it. I mean, that third segment, I can see like Tyler loves it. We're not like the hugest fans, but like we can't deny the fact that it's still really fucking well made. Like it's good, right? It's just not for everybody.
Yeah, this for its cinematography, it actually also got nominated for an Academy Award. So it's one of those like peripheral horror movies that actually did get nominated for an Oscar.
Like the whole anthology, or just that section?
No, the whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Masaki Kobayashi he was a master. Prior to this, he had made The Human Condition, which is like one of the most important like anti-war films ever made, and he made Harakiri, which is like arguably like I like not even exaggerating, might be the best movie ever made. Like Harakiri is like 12 Angry Men with samurais on steroids.
Right.
It's like that's a movie like everyone.
What, the original 12 Angry Men or the remake?
The original one. The remake's not that bad, but the original.
No, the remake's not that bad at all.
I like them both.
Yeah, I like them both too.
It's like Lord of the Flies. I like both of those too.
It's like I like the thing is too is like I like Jack Lemmon, so Jack Lemmon doing Henry Fonda was like perfectly fine for me.
Right. Yeah, Jack Lemmon's awesome. He was awesome.
I love Jack Lemmon from like all the stages of his career. But yeah, before we get too far away from Quieten, I really love Quieten. It's definitely a historical film. It works really well with my sensibilities. Like the 60s is legitimately, like 70s is like legitimately my favorite time in horror. Probably my favorite time in movies. So like I'd like to like share that part of cinema because I think it's like I think horror really overlooks this time period because it seems to me like except for like the Universal monster movies and some Hammer films that aren't like there's only a few that are really individually popular. Like it almost seems like modern horror to me starts at like 68. Where and like it's almost,
well that's exactly what our
you know what I mean?
That's what we said.
Yeah, and like there's like a million, but like there's like this period between like the 50s and 60s where like they were doing lots of crazy stuff around the world that like I think like really hasn't been like that like turned over. And this is like one of those movies I think in that canon.
I really like the 50s, like the Atomic Age type horror
So
films
do
and
I.
stuff. Like
I'm a
this-
big fan of
like the
Atomic
sci-fi
Age
horror.
stuff.
Like I love the 50s, man. Like every time I do a 31 days, I always try to incorporate like a film from that Atomic Age in the 50s.
There's
And
like
they're so much
every-
fun
yeah.
films, dude. They're so
There's-
fucking fun.
Every
There's
time
such
I
a
do
nice
21
charm.
days, I do the same thing.
That movie, I love what's it called?
Dude, I caught that. That was good. That was fucking good. That was so good.
The incredible,
That was a great
the
joke.
incredible shrinking man. That movie, I love that
movie.
That a few, I
love that movie.
That movie's
Yeah.
awesome.
Every
But-
time I do 21 days. That was
But-
fucking brilliant.
Yeah, Quentin's really great. It's a little bit more popular on Letterboxd, so I think like IMDb is probably more accurate to like the popularity of my films. At large, it's only had like 19K on there. But,
What's it on Letterboxd?
50K.
I bet before the Criterion release, that movie was probably nobody had
the
seen it.
director is like really popular, so like that's why like this movie is like getting more popular. And the thing is, like I think the Letterboxd kind of caters to that community more, so it almost like obscures like these movies. I think like even if you talk to like most like general mainstream like movie fans that see like everything the theater every year, like they're not gonna know about this movie.
Right.
So, but yeah, I really love this movie. It's really important. I'd love for you to check it out too. I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
JP,
All right,
what did we
sweet.
give that movie when we talked about it?
Well, Tyler was right that Jeremy and Dave only reviewed it on the show, so they gave it a 8 for Dave and a 7.5 for Jeremy.
It's interesting because like I remember I own it. I watched it. So I it's weird. I'm confused.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I'm trying to place it.
I think that came out on a What We Watched show.
Yeah, it was probably a request.
It wasn't. It was
It-
probably
it-
you.
No, this wasn't me because I didn't see this movie until 2021. I
Wait,
didn't.
really? You didn't request that? That's crazy.
No,
to me.
I didn't
that's
see
crazy.
this movie until 2021, and this was like a movie. Like I even was in Criterion for a few years, and I was like, "What the fuck? This is a Japanese anthology horror movie," and I went and bought it like the next day.
Yeah, that's a pretty early anthology. I think they even mentioned that in the Severin documentary about
Like,
anthologies.
and that's just like whether like you're as high as this movie am like as I am. Like, there's not a ton of anthology movies, and like I've never like seen best anthology list, and like this is on it.
yeah,
Yeah,
Not
it's probably
really.
because it just hasn't been seen by a lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
making those lists, right? So
it has a really cool poster too.
yeah, it does.
Yeah, I changed my letterbox one to the Japanese one. I was like, oh, this is so clean.
Nice.
All right, back to me.
Yep.
So from going from a film about killing someone to a film about the dead, I have 2010's The Dead, which is a zombie film. I know Moodz has seen this. Tyler, have you seen this?
I've definitely heard of it. There's another one I haven't seen.
You've seen this, right, Moodz?
Yeah, I've seen it.
The Dead. Yeah. So The Dead, directed by Jonathan Ford and Howard J. Ford, who really only did one other film that I know of, and that's The Dead 2. This film is a zombie film. It only has 2,978 logs on Letterboxd, which I find incredibly underseen.
What year was this
Sure.
movie again?
2010.
Was it 2010? Crazy.
Yeah. So this is a film I watched way back in 2010, and I don't know if I've watched it since then, but the rewatch actually made it confirmed my love for this movie. So the opening scene in this film tells you exactly what kind of movie that you're watching. It's set in Africa. There's a guy dressed in all black, and he's walking through like the desert, and there's a zombie with bones sticking out like of his leg. Its legs just all mangled, shuffling along. And he looks at it and he just walks past it. And it shows you exactly that this is an old school slow moving zombie film at a time where everything was about fast zombies. It's a return to the roots of the zombie film. This might be like the most Romero film that's not directed by Romero. It is all about the slow shuffling, impending death and decay that comes with the zombies, and I just love that about it. It's very slow moving, and the zombies and just the film. It's about these two guys who are basically in Africa during a zombie apocalypse, and they're looking to get back to their family or safety, and they run into zombies a lot. They're everywhere in this movie, but they run into them so much, and they're always just in the background, slowly moving towards whatever the characters are doing. Like there's one scene where their car breaks down, and which actually they have car trouble throughout the movie, but the car breaks down and they're trying to fix it, and there's just all kind of zombies in the background, and they just slowly start moving towards them. And yeah, like they're not in immediate danger because the zombies are slow, but the fact is that you can't ever rest. You can't ever let your guard down. You always have to be moving because they will eventually catch up to you. They're never ending, and it's such a good metaphor for death in general, right? Because death is slowly moving towards you no matter what. You can't escape it. And that's sort of what it is in this film. And I love that about it. That's why George's zombie films have always been so good. And this one is it's actually funny, like watching it, like I always knew it was like compared to like George's films, but watching it now, like after, a decade or more of film knowledge increase, I essentially realized like, wow, this is very similar to George. Like this is like
the influence had to have been there. Direct. It had to have been there.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like beautiful cinematography. It just the desert, the African, like the dryness of everything. Something that I learned, I might have knew this before and forgot, but the film, the lead character in the film, he looks horrible throughout the film. Like he just looks bad. Well, turns out he actually contracted malaria during the filming of this movie and almost died. Like literally almost died. He was in the hospital and stuff. And I'm like, that's probably why he looks like shit throughout the whole movie. You know what I mean? They had a really troubled production, delayed shit, broken equipment, delayed equipment, just a really tough shoot on this film. It seemed horrible. There's a scene where the character is changing a tire, and there's just like the audience sees this zombie just like shuffling towards him, and it's just terrifying. The zombies look good. There's a lot of like, they actually cast a lot of like amputees and stuff to be part of the film, so they could film missing limbed zombies and stuff like that.
Didn't they do that in the Dawn of the Dead remake too? That opening scene with the one-armed zombie.
It's possible.
I think I think he was an amputee.
Mostly good practical effects in this film, if not all. I can't remember. I watched this one kind of early, but it's a movie that I feel like, for zombies being such a huge genre, like not a lot of people have actually watched this movie because it's called The Dead, which is a pretty generic title. It looks, the poster doesn't scream like, oh, this is a great movie or anything. It seems kind of generic, but it is like true blue horror, true blue zombie films. You know what I mean? It has such a great vibe and atmosphere and terror. It's like actually scary, the idea that they just never stop. The African setting is really awesome. The acting's good, the direction's good. It's just like, there's a lot of times they won't kill a zombie just because they need to save their ammunition, and it's not an immediate threat. You know what I mean? Like they can just move past it. But the fact that they're dehydrated and low on water, and the heat and the elements makes all that even harder to deal with. Bite wounds, headshots, all kind of good stuff, body parts. It's just a good zombie flick, dude. I recommend, for the world of zom-coms and fast moving zombies, and, to see a throwback zombie film in this way is awesome. And it's serious. There's like no comedy in it. It's depressing kind of. Worth watching if you've never seen it. I know Moodz is a fan of it as well. When's the last time you watched it?
Probably. And actually, I think this was one of the very first reviews I ever did on YouTube. It's probably awful. It's probably.
I think I did a review on it too.
Like those early reviews were just like, yeah, and the zombies were they were good looking, and it's probably pretty darky. But
sometimes I'll come across a Letterboxd review I wrote like 3 years ago, and it just makes me want to like.
I do like reading Letterboxd.
I think this movie is fucking beautiful. Like the cinematography in it is great. The location's awesome. The zombies look great. Like there's
the oranges and the desert colors.
This is legit a great movie. Like, man, when the sequel came out, I was so pissed off.
I've never seen it.
It's not horrible, but it's a huge letdown. Given like how good this one was.
That's how Train to Busan 2 was. Like
I agree.
Down like that.
I agree, man. Train to Busan was so fucking good, man. Right?
Yeah.
This movie is definitely worthy of your attention. The Dead is a great film, but yeah,
it is genuinely underseen. You know what I mean? It really is.
It had a buzz. It definitely had a buzz when it came out, and then I feel like people just. I mean, again, people's attention spans are 30. People are fucking goldfish now.
Yeah, right? I mean, we're almost talking a decade and a half ago at this point too. You know what I mean? It's a lot of things that came out during that time have like sort of fallen off a cliff if they haven't been on Netflix or something.
I do feel like this one kind of got lumped in because 2000 around this time there was a shit motherfucking load of zombie films. Yeah. So everything it was so watered down at the time, and it was really hard to figure out.
And the title, it's just called The Dead, right? It doesn't stand out. So
I think a lot of people probably passed on it because they were so infuriated with the oversaturation of zombie films at the time. Like there was a time with found footage, the same thing. People were like, fuck found footage, there's too many of them. So I think when this one came out in that oversaturated period, but it was definitely a gem. It was a good one. It was actually a good film, and it probably didn't get as seen as much as it probably should have because of what was going on. I mean, everyone and their dog was making a zombie film. So
yeah, you remember there was that one that came out where it was like a 12-year-old girl made it.
Yeah, forget what wasn't it iZombie or something? Or
something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so The Dead, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's fantastic. If we ever get 2010, I would be surprised if it didn't at least get close to making my list. It is available on Tubi and Amazon Prime for anybody that wants to check it out. It's readily available, just waiting on you to hit play.
Right. Good stuff. Good pick, man. Good pick.
Thank you.
I like it. All right. So we are going to leave the 60s and we're going to head over to the 80s, 1987 specifically, with a film called Born of Fire. Have you guys seen this one?
I have not seen that.
No, I haven't seen this.
Okay.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah. So this one has a couple releases. It got released by Mondo Macabro on DVD years and years ago. Like I want to say 15, probably more than that years ago, man. It was probably in the 2000-ish era.
Also, by the way, Moodz, your first movie that you picked was also available on Tubi.
Oh, really? Nice.
While we're doing the author listen, my movie is available on Max, or you can rent on Amazon or YouTube, or if you're like me, you have Criterion too.
Can you figure that out through Letterboxd? Like, does it show you where you can watch it?
You have to edit your streaming services.
Yeah, you can set your preferences to your favorite streaming service. I just set it to the ones I have.
Okay. Yeah, because that's interesting. Because you guys are like bringing this stuff off, and I'm like, how the fuck do you know this?
I actually wrote it down.
I'm so bad with like streaming services because like I watch majority of the things I try to watch are physical copies. So
I watched all my movies on physical.
Yeah, so I saw this movie years and years ago. I missed the Mondo DVD. I was so pissed about that. But it just got re-released on Blu-ray in the UK. So I picked up the Blu-ray and rewatched it, and I was like, man, this movie is fucking, it's just crazy, dude. It's just so, it's one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen in my life. Like, the location that they shot this shit in is so incredible. It's so surreal looking. You wouldn't even believe it was real. Like, it's obviously being surreal, but like, it's just so crazy because the shit like exists in Turkey, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, it's nuts. So basically the premise of the film is the film opens up with this. He's like a master flutist. Like, he plays the flute. He's like one of those, it's for white people. Essentially, you go to see a concert of just a flutist, right? So anyways, he's playing the flute. This woman shows up, and our main character is played by Peter Firth. This woman shows up, played by Susan Crowley. And actually, she's not even named in the film. She's literally known as the woman. Anyways, her job is she studies like weather patterns and stuff like that. And there's like this weird eclipse that's happening, and like weird shit in the world is happening and stuff like that. Like there's like some volcano action that's could be related to, this eclipse that's happening in Turkey and stuff like that. Anyway, she shows up at this master flutist kind of concert and stuff like that. Anyways, he's hearing like weird like music and stuff like that, like not the shit that he's playing. He's hearing like the weird things. The narrative is really strange. Like, you really have to follow along with this. So he's being kind of like haunted by like this weird music and stuff. Like, no one else can hear it. And so they get together, and it's kind of a weird start to the film because you don't really know why specifically she's there, but I don't think she does either in the narrative, why they come together. Ultimately, what happens is his mom is dying, and they go to see his mom in the beginning of the film, right after they kind of meet up at this concert and stuff like that. And she explains like what she does, with the weather and stuff like that. There's all these weird things that are happening. Anyways, they go to see his mom. She's dying on her deathbed, and she mentions something about the master flutist, that his father, who also was a big master flutist kind of thing, he went to go see this guy in Turkey, ultimately ended up dying and stuff like that. And now he's very intrigued. He wants to find out exactly, what the fuck this was all about and stuff like that. So ultimately it leads to the fact that like, there's like a bigger picture happening here. And there's almost like this jinn, like this supernatural creature that is planning to basically blow up the world. So if you're following along, yes, the narrative is very crazy. So anyways, they make their way to Turkey to go find this master flutist because he wants to find out like the truth behind his father and why he died and the way he died and stuff. Cause he died in this fiery way and stuff like that. So I'm not going to give anything else around, away about the film and stuff like that. So ultimately what this movie is it's like playing off like Arabic, like mythology and stuff like that. Now, I'm not an expert on this type of mythology, and so in a sense, it's very biblical, right? There is a lot of shit going on in this film. It is super fucking cool, man. It is really fucking cool. Like, so once they ultimately get to Turkey in this, the cinematography is so beautiful that like you almost forget that you're watching a film with a narrative. Like, you just want to see more of like when they first get there, they film these caves that have been dug out. And they were dug out like centuries ago. I think it was like the Christians or something like that. They used to go into these caves, and that's where they do all their praise and stuff like that. And they're so fucking beautiful, dude. Like, this shit is just, it's beyond surreal. The weird thing about this film is like it's set in reality, but it has this uber surreal feel to it that it just seems it seems like it's just buried in mythology. Super fucking cool shit, man. Like, there's a lot of weird shit that's happening. There's a lot of weird visuals. There's a lot of like odd characters and stuff. There's this weird, and there's a lot of really strange reveals in the film too, having to do with his father and, like this jinn. And all these other type of characters and stuff. Like the main character in this film that's supposedly going to blow up the world and shit like that is so bizarre. It is freaking so bizarre. Now, if you're into Arabic mythology, you would probably know a little bit more. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this. I'm watching this film with the visuals in mind though too, right? Like, I mean, some of the mythology I get, but again, I'm not an expert on the deeper ends of the mythology and stuff like that. But I don't really think it really would hurt your experience watching this film if you didn't really understand what's really going on, because like they talk about like, you know, born into fire and you know, things like that, and like how man was created and how jinns were created through like, you know, certain, you know, elements. And it's almost confusing to me, because when it comes down to you know, like religion and mythologies and stuff like that, sometimes the things kind of go over my head. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes like when they try to explain things, I'm just like, okay, you know, this was created through fire and this was created through wind. Like jinns were created through this and that. And I'm like, okay. What the fuck? But you guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's so, it just goes right over your head sometimes. But man,
this movie looks really fucking cool.
Yeah, it's so like I said though, man, it's based in Arabic mythology and stuff, and it's again.
Well, I love stuff that has to do with jinns. Like I think genies, jinns are such an underutilized thing in horror. Obviously, you have Wishmaster,
right? Yeah, this is completely different. Like it's not set in that kind of like that type of world. It's like I said, it's set in this world, but it doesn't feel like it. And that's what's so fucking cool about this. But man, I mean, if you're a person that loves great visuals, cinematography, bizarreness, like this movie is for you. It's so fucking cool to look at. Like I can't even express how beautiful this movie is. It's one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. Like I've heard people dub this as not being a horror film, which I think is complete bullshit. Because it totally is. I mean, because if you're looking at the aspect of like it's based on Arabic mythologies and, you know, the whole religious factor and stuff like that. But I mean, all that shit to me is very horrific in general. And the way this movie's projected at you, like it's shot like a horror film. It sounds like a horror film. It looks like one, even though it's super, super beautiful and shit. There's so much stuff that's going on in this that, you know, it probably would take someone of, you know, almost like professor levels to dissect this shit, man. It's pretty crazy, but I highly recommend this, man. Like, I mean, again, not knowing much about the mythologies and stuff like that, I personally love this film. I think it's so unique. It's super, super unique, but
yeah, that's a good hidden gem considering I've never even heard of this movie.
It's tough to, it's really tough to talk because there's things that you don't want to expose when you're talking about this film because you don't want to ruin it for people. But man, it is very, very interesting. And I mean, even if you don't get what you know you're seeing, at least you understand that it's going to be fucking beautiful to look at. Like you can't deny that fact. Like it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's definitely a hidden gem for myself. I think it's so intriguing. It's one of those films I think you could watch over and over again and probably get something out of it each time. You know what I mean? So definitely check this out, man. Definitely check this out. It's fucking beautiful. I give this one 9 out of 10. Born on Fire. Again, you know, people talking about like it's not a horror film and stuff. I'm like, I guess it depends on how you perceive it. Like it literally sounds and looks. It's perceived. The way they shoot this thing, it's a horror film, man. 100%. So, but who cares? It's on my list. It's not on yours. So whatever.
I like it.
No, I think you specifically, Tyler, would really like this film.
I was looking at like some of the screencasts. This movie looks wild.
Yeah, dude, it is beyond wild, man. It looks
like if I would have like just seen like that, I would have thought that would have like came out like in like just like the almost like the mystical like look it has. I would have thought that would have been like Czech new wave stuff. That looks so cool.
Yeah, man. Like I said, you know, I don't even know how to classify them. Like the prayer areas that they dug out in these hillsides, these rocks and shit. It's so fucking cool, dude. Like I can't believe that shit actually exists. I've never seen pictures of that shit before. Right. And it's obviously been done way back in the day kind of thing. And it's really interesting. But it's beyond surreal though. it's super surreal. Like the way this thing comes full circle and like what happens in the third act and shit is bananas. It's crazy. It's really cool. You got to see it.
Yeah, I'll definitely check this one out. That one looks really up my alley.
Yeah, so the Blu-ray was released through.
It was Mondo. That's awesome because I've really been liking them lately.
Yeah, well, Mondo did the DVD years ago, but so the UK, they have a Blu-ray in the UK. It's the only other release of it. I mean, hopefully Mondo puts out the Blu-ray in Region 1 for people. But I think it's Eureka that did it. Yeah, I think it's Eureka that put it out. It's very, very beautiful, man.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Awesome film, man. Yeah, check out Born of Fire, man, 1987. Total hidden gem, in my opinion. So, JP.
So, what'd you rate that?
Or Tyler, 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. Okay. So, all right. For my movie, we're actually going to stay in the 60s. In fact, we're going to stay in 1964. And wouldn't you know it, we're going to stay in Japan as well. My 1964 film is Hiroshi Tigashira's Woman in the Dunes.
You mentioned this one last week.
Yeah, dude. Like, this is the movie. I said, fuck it. I'm picking this movie. I was going to watch something else. I got like a half hour in. It was a movie that like I'd only seen once before. You could only watch it on YouTube. It's that like kind of obscure. And I just was not feeling it. I was like, fuck it. I'm watching Woman in the Dunes. I was so fixated on watching this movie again and picking it that I just like went full tilt. and dove into it, and I'm really glad I watched it. This kind of falls in the same territory as Moodz was saying about the last movie. Like maybe this movie has been like kind of like been on the outskirts and not really known about, but it's like it falls in that camp of like if it sounds like a horror movie, if it talks like a horror movie, if it looks like a horror movie, then it's a fucking horror movie. And
well, that's what I feel like a Born of Fire, man. It's the same thing.
And I think this is the same thing. And like but this is like an old Japanese movie, so that keeps away from things. But the plot of this
I forgot to say how much. Oh shit! I totally forgot about the viewer. Like this one only had about 1,869 logs. Born of Fire.
Yeah. So this is actually statistically my most popular movie on Letterboxd, but again, it's only like 22,000 on IMDb. But so this movie is about a man. We never find out his name. We just found out he's a teacher in the city and has a hobby. He's an entomologist, which is he's like a bug. He like studies bugs. So he's out in like these sand dunes in like rural Japan catching bugs, and it's so like sandy and they get crazy sandstorms and it's like really fucking atmospheric and vicious. And he goes and he misses his last bus home. And then there's a little village down there. They like literally live like in little sand pits and like sand huts. And there's like a little village down there where it's like real primitive stuff where they have to like transport water, like hard rough living out there. So they say they bring him back to this little village, let him down this ladder, and they said like, hey, you can stay here for the night with her, and then you can catch the next bus tomorrow. So he stays the night with this woman, and he gets to talk to her. And then she learns that like she lives like in a literal like hollowed out sand pit, and at all times like the sides of the sand pit is like collapsing and like trickling in like to where like her house. So like her house constantly has like sand coming through it. It like shakes. Like they're always like covered in sweat and sand. And it's so uncomfortable. It's so claustrophobic. But he's talking to her, and then he learns like, oh, she lives here alone because her daughter and her husband got swallowed up in like the walls collapsing and suffocated in the sand. So now like there's this looming threat. But they have their conversation. Like the guy's like me, like living in like toughing it out for the night in this sand hut, but it sucks. And then he wakes up in the middle of the night, and the woman's outside shoveling sand into boxes. He's like, what the hell are you doing? He says, oh, every night I have to come up and do this for 4 hours, where she literally has to shovel all the sand that's like fallen off the sides of the walls into buckets for like the villagers to pull up then like on a pulley system from her sand pit, where her house is literally just going to like drown itself in sand. And the villagers Like they're like they can't they're responsible for getting them food and water, and so they're like always dependent on those people, so they always have to like be giving them sand and doing all these things like that they're telling them to like even get to live. And the guy wakes up in the morning after this experience and he starts to have some tension with the woman, and she keeps talking to him like she's like her new husband or something, and he goes, I have to catch the bus now. And he walks out the door and he sees the ladder is gone, and he realizes, oh no, I've been trapped. The ladder can only be lowered from the top. So he's like stuck in this sand pit now with this woman who like they're forcing her to like work for her and be her husband and like shovel sand every night and like procreate with her. This movie is like so intense on the way it plays against like the feeling of being trapped, and like how it relates. It's a whole thing going into society. I'll get to that, but part of what makes this movie like so horrific is the sound design and the cinematography. This has the same composer that was on Quaiden. Also did the soundtrack for this. And if I could sell you on this movie at all, please just go to YouTube and listen to the sounds for the, just put like Woman in the Dune soundtrack and hear the main score for this movie. It's like it is so eerie, like how much this plays like a modern psychological horror film. When you put all these elements together with the cinematography is always like close up to them, and you always see them just covered in sand. The sound design is this constant sound of them just grating sand against everything. It's just like it's one of those movies that you watch and you're like, I didn't realize movies could do this. The cinematography is black and white, and it's so insane, and it makes this sand look so terrifying and so beautiful at the same time. Sometimes it just looks like waves of like dark oceans. They do this really neat trick where they double exposure the film, where you'll just get this like crazy faded like backdrop of the sand, and then like a close up of this person's face, like just covered in like sand and like scratching, and then the score plays, and it's like some of like the most uncomfortable shit you will ever hear. This movie is part of the Japanese New Wave, which I think is like a really like part of horror that's being slept on. That's why this movie kind of pairs really well with Quaiden, because Quaiden's also a big part of that movement. Basically what that movement is like when they started moving away from traditional Japanese movies, like on family values and just like samurai stories, like their version of Westerns, you kind of have this new wave of directors that were like kind of like pushing the envelope. You start to see like nudity, like this film has nudity in it, has sex in it, it has sexual violence in it, and it was 1964. It's not like that was really common. Quaiden also has nudity in it. Some other films from this era, like they kind of like really started to push the envelope. Some things you might have heard of from this era, like Onababa, Jigoku, Ghost of Tetsuya, Kuroneko, Blind Beast, and like Face of Another. Those are probably the most significant ones, but those are all like really great horror movies that probably a little more popular than these, that kind of define. And there's just so much more like content like this that I think that's like way to be like mined. I was doing a little research for this movie, and I came across a video from somebody that I'm actually in a discussion group with. His name's Bill Griff on YouTube, and he put in his video, he said, this movie can be summed up in one line. At one point, the guy is talking about an insect he caught in Antillean, and he says the insect ensnares its prey by digging out a pit in loose sand. When the prey falls into the pit, it is unable to get out and becomes food for the Antillean. So, and like that's basically the plot of the movie. Like in a nutshell, while he's there, like you never really, he's stuck there for months, and it goes on, and like he's just constantly subjected to like psychological like torture. Like they'll just say, well, fuck you, we're not going to bring you any food, and then they just have to wait for for days if they piss him off. There's like there's some subjugation to sexual torture. There's this one scene that's kind of wild that it was like in a movie this old, and it took me back. But this movie just like super well done, and like it finds a way to like, it kind of like leads a metaphor into society where it's like you're just shoveling shit every day to stay above water, and it draws like this metaphor, like it's the same thing as like living in the city where he's just doing the same bullshit every day to stay above water. And yeah, this film really resonates with me. It was this got nominated for Best Director in 1964, and it was the first Japanese movie to get nominated for that award. So this movie is pretty substantial in that I think like a lot of like modern psychological horror movies can really be traced back to this film, and it's something I just think is like so just like unfortunately missed by like the horror community. I think people would really really love. So yeah, that's what I have to say about Woman in the Dunes.
Wow, sounds cool.
Yeah, that one does sound cool.
Never seen that.
You can watch it on the Criterion channel. You can rent it on Amazon, or you can purchase it from Criterion.
It's probably on Max too, then, right? Because
it's not on Max. I checked. Yeah, but I don't think this one's that hard to find. This movie is like it's really like an experience, and it's like one of those movies I just watched. It was just like this is like a whole different thing I didn't realize you could do. And there's just so many similarities that like I think can be traced back to this movie. So yeah, I'm actually going to give this movie a 10 out of 10.
Wow. Wow. Like, I don't know what to say on that.
Impressive.
Yeah.
All right. So the next film for me is a film, also a serial killer film, or about killing people. It is a movie that I'm pretty sure both of you have seen. It's called Confessions of a Serial Killer from 1985.
I don't know if I've seen this actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. It was really harder to see for the longest time. Recently, it actually became available to watch on Tubi, oddly enough. But the reason I actually picked this one, it was on a list of about 15 that I was thinking about. And the day I was like making the list, Unearthed Films announced the Blu-ray for it. So I figured that no time, better than the present to shine some light on this.
Right.
So yeah, this film has long been talked about getting a release for the last decade. People have been suggesting it to like Scream Factory and Arrow and Vinegar Syndrome and all the labels to release. I don't know if there was issues with the rights for the longest time or whatever, but the Blu-ray is going to come out July 23rd this year, so people will be able to finally watch it. This film only has 561 people have logged it on Letterboxd, which is really low.
Yeah.
So it is basically a film that came out in 1985. Those of you who are familiar with Henry Lee Lucas knows that he was arrested around like 1983-ish, I think, and started confessing to all those 200 murders. And this film came out a couple years later, which is pretty impressive that they made it so quick, similar to that Dahmer one we talked about the other day, which is what got me thinking about this one. This film often gets compared to Henry, which was started being made in 86, but it really didn't get a big release until the 90s, I think. And Henry is definitely the better movie, but it also feels more like a movie than this one. This one feels more like more biopic-ish than the other one. It basically follows the Henry Lee Lucas murderer, real life murderer. And the difference between this one and Henry is we actually get a lot of like the police station interrogation. It kind of focuses on the confessions, sort of how like the Netflix documentary series from a few years ago worked. So we get Henry talking to the police, telling them about these murders, and then we get sort of like vignettes of the murders and different interactions, like his interactions with Otis O'Toole and Otis O'Toole's sister, which we get in Henry as well. But they changed the names actually in this one. So it's not actually Henry Lee Lucas and Otis O'Toole and stuff. They have different names in the movie, but it's clearly based on that. And it's actually really interesting how they do the film, and they do call into question sort of like the confessions, because they're like, I don't know if this guy's just saying stuff to, go on these trips, these locations, get food, cigarettes, which is in reality what actually was one of the main reasons that Henry started confessing to like shit that he didn't do, is because they were treating him good. He was in a cold cell, miserable. And then they started bringing him to these interrogation rooms and giving him cheeseburgers and cigarettes and taking him out to different locations, asking him if he remembers any murders that happened there and stuff. So that's sort of why it seems that he started confessing to 200 murders. You know what I mean? Which he definitely killed a lot of people, including his mom. But they don't actually go into that in this film. But yeah, I think it's a really solid like first attempt at the Henry story. It's not quite as good as Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer with Michael Rooker. But the guy who plays Henry in this one actually, to me, feels more accurate to who Henry actually was. Whereas Michael Rooker's performance is a better performance, but not a more resembling performance. So this one actually feels more like Henry to me, even though the other one is better. But I like how they handle the Otis O'Toole and the sister, and it shows him the very first scene in this movie is Henry picking up a hitchhiker and says that he'll take her to like the gas station and stuff, and then they drive past the gas station, and that completely reminded me of Death Proof, Tarantino's Death Proof with help me with the actor's name. Kurt Russell. Yeah, where he's basically like, which way are you going? And he's like, well, that's unfortunate. If you would have said this way, you wouldn't have been scared or whatever. But that I'm like, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if Tarantino didn't get that idea from this movie, knowing the kind of movies that he watches, and then just refined that scene in Death Proof and made it better, which is literally the MO of like Quentin Tarantino's entire career. Inspired by something, refine it, make it better. And that's what he does, man. Yeah. He's so good at it. But I wonder, I'm sure that this is probably a movie that he's mentioned before, because
100%. Yeah.
I feel like of any mainstream, like any director that's ever really like achieved mainstream success, he probably has like the most insane knowledge of just like B-movie cult films, like compared to like anyone else.
Bro. 100%.
It's like really cool, like hearing like of a hype up just like movies like that like
just one scene in some garbage movie from like 1974. That has like the great like 3 scenes in it.
As much as like it's directors I like, sometimes they always name like the same like maybe like 50, 60 like directors as their influences.
Yeah, Tarantino loves everything, it's so cool. But this movie, I think it's a really solid watch. And when we just talked about serial killer films and stuff like that, this one's good. It almost made my 85 list, but 85 was such a deep, tough year.
Dude, that's a tough fucking year, man.
Right. So, but it did make Carly's top 10 of 85, I believe. So, I give it an 8 out of 10, and I definitely think people should pick up that Unearthed Blu-ray. I know I will be picking it up. It's a film I wanted on disc for a really long time. And the funny thing is, the cover of the movie looks like the Hannibal. Like they have like that Hannibal style mask on the dude, which I don't think it ever appears in the movie. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good flick. Definitely a little bit hidden.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me about that. I pre-ordered that while you were doing your review. Yeah, I knew it was coming out. I completely.
It was just so weird because I was thinking about picking this movie. Like I said, I got a list of 15 movies, and then literally the next day, Unearthed announced a Blu-ray, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just pick that one. Seems like a good reason.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Right. Sweet. Yeah, that's a good choice, man. Good one.
Thanks.
So we are going to go back to 1964. 64 is winning tonight.
64. Who had that on their bingo card?
What is this, like the fourth film from 1964 already?
4 films from 1964. That's
you want to hear something fucking crazy?
I guess that's going to be a pretty tough year when we get to it.
I actually cut a film. I watched another film from 64 that I was planning on doing, but it's not on this show, but it's another one from 64.
I think in general, 60s movies are hidden gems because nobody fucking watches them.
Well, apparently 64 is pretty solid.
Dude, 64 is a sick year.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, so 1964, and it's a film called Devil Doll. Have you guys ever seen this one?
I feel like I know that film.
I know it because I've definitely looked at it before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a film I've always really enjoyed, man. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it's one of those type of like ventriloquist type deals with a pretty crazy twist in it, kind of deal. So essentially what it is you've got this he's like a hypnotist. Right?
This one's also on Tubi.
Is it on Tubi?
Go right now.
There you go.
Tubi's kind of insane. Tubi goes hard.
Yeah, Tubi's goated for sure.
Yeah, so our main character, his name is the Great Varelli. He's like a hypnotist / ventriloquist performer. He's got this this ventriloquist dummy named Hugo. And
wait, this is a remake.
It could be a remake because there was a film that
is this a remake? There was one from 1936 called The Devil Doll.
Yeah, it's not a remake of that.
Oh, it's not?
Different narrative. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Is that the Karloff film? Is Karloff in that one?
It's Todd Browning. I know that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think they're different narratives.
Okay.
But anyways, our main character, the Great Varelli, he's a hypnotist / ventriloquist. He's got this dummy named Hugo. And the thing is with Hugo is that, it's, he's kind of special, man. Hugo can pretty much do shit. Like he can kind of get up and walk around and do some random shit. Like it just shit that would blow people's minds. And nobody can figure out exactly how Hugo is walking around and doing what it's doing.
I definitely know of this movie. I've heard of this one before, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing with Varelli is that like how is he doing this with Hugo? Like it's pretty interesting. But he's pretty much a scam artist, when it comes down to the finer things. Like he meets this girl that he brings up on stage and he hypnotizes her and stuff to do some crazy dancing on stage. But then he realizes that she's super fucking rich and he wants to essentially steal her fucking money. Right. So he uses his powers and he basically puts her into a coma and stuff like that. And, his plan is to like steal all of her riches and shit like that. But, she's got a brother. He starts investigating and, we start to learn some interesting facts about Varelli and Hugo. It's really, this movie's really well done. I mean, when I first watched this movie years and years ago, I was expecting kind of a straightforward, ventriloquist type story where Varelli is, doing the killings and, all this type of shit. But it goes into different places, man. It's really interesting how they do it. I think the twist is fantastic in the film. I think where it goes is pretty cool too. The acting by the guy that plays Varelli in this film, Bright Holiday, kills it, man. He is so menacing in this movie. It's fucking awesome, dude. Like the whole time you're watching this shit, you're just like, man, he's so amazing. So good at what he does. Really, really good haunting score in the film. But I mean, there is times in the film where, you're watching this and you're like, okay, so there's a lot of close-up shots in this film. And it's interesting why they did that too, because like you're dealing with a ventriloquist dummy, it doesn't really look the greatest, to be honest. Like you can see the imperfections and stuff. And I think Image put this out on DVD and like the DVD looks really fucking good. Like it honestly looks super, super good. You can see all the imperfections in the dummy and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's one of those, it's a dummy film. These movies have been done over and over again. I think this one separates itself because it has that twist to it where you don't really see coming. I think it's very, very unique in what it does. But, you know, stylistically wise, like I think this one excels itself. You know, it separates itself from all those other type of, you know what I'm saying? Like those ventriloquist films that like, they all have the same.
Any type of doll movies.
Yeah. And this one really kind of separates itself. Like I said, I don't want to give anything away in that aspect. But performances are great. The dummy, I mean, it's clearly a dude in a fucking, you know, in a dummy costume that's moving around doing the shit and stuff like that. I mean, it's 1964. What are they going to do, right? But it's creepy as fuck, though. It's super, super fucking creepy. The one thing about the film that I think that they probably could have done a little bit better was the cinematography. At times, like I said, there's a lot of close-up shots in this, which is really strange why they do that in this type of film, because you're kind of exposing a little bit too much. But overall, I think this is a fantastic watch. It's a quick watch too, man. It only runs maybe 80 minutes or something like that. It gets right down to the point. There's never really any dull moments. And I think, like I said, the acting really holds its force in this film, man. It's projected super, super well. But it's all about the third act though, really, when it comes down to it and shit. And it's cool. It's a really, really good film. And, you know, like I said, there's a lot of these type of movies, but this one separates itself. So I think check out Devil Doll, man. Again, a film that's super, super hard to talk about because you don't want to give anything away.
It would be fun to do a show on killer dolls.
Yeah. Yeah. This one's just creepy. It's just creepy. It's another black and white film in 64. Man, we've had a lot of black and white films on this Hidden Gem show so far. Because both yours, Tyler, were black and white.
Quiet in his color.
Yeah, Quiet in his
color. Oh, yeah, Quiet in his color. Fuck. Yep. Crazy. Yeah, anyways.
Big deal it was color, though.
Yeah, so 64, black and white. Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, definitely. I mean, the title, it probably doesn't sound overly too appealing, Devil Doll kind of thing, but I think it holds its own. It holds its own. So give it a shot. 64, quick watch. Very, very fun stuff. Very fun stuff. So, Tyler.
All right.
I give it an 8. 8.
Sweet.
So we're gonna. This is probably the easiest one on my list to connect with anyone. We are going back to America, but it's the year 1966. This is a movie I Patreoned years ago, and a movie I've been shouting on the mountain since I accidentally stumbled onto it in like 2018. And that film is John Frankenheimer's Seconds. I love this movie so much. I've been shouting at people for years to please watch this fucking movie. This movie is as in just watching a movie as an adult and like legitimately getting scared. This might be the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. This movie is so fucking good. I found this movie because it was when I first started getting into Criterion. And I went to their website and I filtered all their movies by horror. And this movie came up and I was like, what the hell is this? And they happened to have it at my Barnes and Nobles. And I came home and watched it and it blew my shitter out. Mm-hmm. This is like the most terrifyingly existential movie like you will ever see. It's a movie about identity. So right from the open credits, like there's this like crazy organ, like terrifying organ score in this like bottlenecked black and white cinematography. Like imagine like a John Carpenter like on the keyboard but with an organ score without any of the fun, and like all been poured with nightmare fuel just poured right on top of it. And it just like sets this like really like moody atmosphere. And so you're introduced to this guy, you don't know anything about him, he's just walking around and like a train station, and someone hands him off a note like where to go, and he gets a mysterious phone call from like a friend that like was presumed dead like a long time ago. To just follow this mysterious place. There's like very little development. You just see like that he's an old guy. You know, he's like in the twilight years of his marriage. His kids are moved out. You know, life's a little tough for him. He's just kind of like in those like wandering last years, and he goes to this like he follows this phone call and this little mysterious address he got, and it's a firm that fakes that for rich men like him that will fake your death and then completely reconstruct your body and make you a new person and give you a new life. In exchange, like, you'll have a new identity, you're a completely new person, and you're completely severed from your old life. So he agrees to do this. There may have been some coercion involved, but it's even when he gets this place, it's just so eerie. You have these side characters that just have like so much like quirk and like viciousness and personality to them, where it's like a Twilight Zone episode where like this is just like not gonna end okay. So he does this surgery, and this guy was like an overweight, older, like 60s, like guy in his 60s when he went under, and then he awakens, and he's Rock Hudson. And for those of you who don't know who Rock Hudson is, Rock Hudson would have been like Ryan Gosling of like the 50s and 60s, where he like could play that pretty boy romance part, but like you also bought him as like, like a tough guy in the westerns and like a cop movie or something. He was kind of like that man's man type of guy where he can like just do both the roles. So this was like a really kind of like adventurous movie for him to do, but he was a great actor. He's like one of the big stars of that era. I love seeing.
He died of AIDS though. Did he
yeah,
not?
He died of AIDS in the early 80s, and he was like one of the first openly gay celebrities. Yeah, Rock Hudson was like, he was a tremendous actor. He's like up there with me of like,
he was really good.
Missions of that era. And he's incredible in this film. In this film, it plays in a way where it's a complete like assault on your own identity and like what your existence really means, because now that he's like given everything he's ever wanted, and like he looks like he's a good looking young guy again, he's free of like his kids, his wife, he can do whatever he wants, he has all the money he'll ever need, he's like an established famous painter, he can do like his only responsibilities are like to himself. And then as he's trying to like integrate with like these other like young people and do these things, it's like he's having this like interior crisis that he's still this like 60 something year old guy like in this body mentally, and like this, it just starts to really spiral down into like some really depressing places. There's a particular scene that like I always reference this as like the most psychologically terrifying scene of any movie I've ever seen, where I don't even want to like really like notion to like what happens. But like when you see it coming, like what he's going to do, like it's such like it puts you in his perspective of like being in this situation, and like to hear this conversation he's about to have it. It's like there's something like almost like so like terrifyingly unknown about it. It just, this movie will get under your skin. It's filmed in a way that's very like claustrophobic and terrifying. It's expertly directed. There's like great character roles in it. Murray Abraham, I believe his name is, the mayor from Jaws, has a like a small part, and it's just like he literally has like a 30-second line, and it's like it's a 30 seconds like that ties everything together, and you'll never like forget it. And then this movie just fades out with like such a sad whimper, and it's like so poetic and like somber. It's so fucking good. Just watch this goddamn movie, please.
It's good.
But yeah, I love Seconds. I'm gonna Seconds a 9.5 out of 10.
Ooh, not a 10, really? I'm surprised. Why not?
I think there's maybe a little bit like of a pacing dip when he first starts to get acquainted, like when he's an adult. I mean, when he first like gets into the community, and I don't feel like it just like completely like ever like brings me to a different place, but I love this movie so much. It's like as close to a masterpiece as like as it can get.
Right. Cool, man. Yeah, it's that's a good one, man. That's a really good one. JP.
All right. Number 4 here for me. Now this was the one title that I feel like isn't as hidden as the other ones that I had. But I couldn't not pick it after talking to Dave Z a little bit, because we're both like big stands of this film. And it is 1999's Storm of the Century. Have you guys seen this?
No, but this is a movie I want to see for a while.
But
This
have you
is a
seen it?
mini-series.
Yeah, I've seen it before. Yeah.
This is a mini.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you've ever seen this one.
No,
because
I saw it years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So Storm of the Century is based on not a Stephen.
It's
actually
long
not
as
based
fuck,
on
man.
anything.
Isn't it like 3 hours?
It's 4 hours and 15 minutes.
Okay, yeah. I can
Oh, baby.
fucking look.
4 hours and 16 minutes, actually.
Damn, dude. Crazy.
So this is a Stephen King. It's not based on one of his novels, actually. It's an original screenplay. So that's kind of interesting right away. But yeah, in terms of like it's a Stephen King thing that I'm sure a lot of people watched when it came out. It was a miniseries, but it was sort of in an era where miniseries were like done. This was like the last of the miniseries, 99. So in terms of like it's known as a Stephen King property, you would think that it would be pretty popular, but I would say out of like all of Stephen King's properties, this is like one of the least seen. It does have the most logs out of all the films that I picked with 10,975. But still, The Dead had 3,000. So I think that not a lot. So if you look at any other Stephen King thing, it's going to have like a shit ton. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So in terms of like my justification for it being hidden gem, sure, in the grand scheme of things, maybe not as hidden, but in the Stephen King lexicon, one of the most hidden, if not the most. So it's 4 hours, 16 minutes. I remember first seeing it when it aired in 99, but I didn't really remember it. And I don't even know if I finished it, but a few years ago, I was snowed in and I walked to Walmart and just wanted something to watch and found basically like a 10-pack of movies, and Storm of the Century was one of them. This film was recently released by Kino on DVD a couple years
I remember
ago,
that. Well, they
which
were
is
going to release the
horrible.
Blu-ray and then they didn't. It was weird.
Yeah, they're like, the cost of transfer would be a lot or something. It's like, dude, shut up. Nobody wants your stupid DVD, bro.
What's weird because like, oh no, it wasn't a TV film, was it?
Yeah, it was a TV miniseries.
Okay, yeah. I mean, fuck, they released so many fucking TV series, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
But they didn't do that one.
I have no clue why they didn't want to do that, but so yeah, it's a film that I absolutely loved. And have you guys ever watched a movie that you loved but are afraid to do like a rewatch because just something about it makes you think that it's not going to hold up as much?
Yeah, I've had moments like that, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is one of those films where I thought, like, man, I don't know if it's gonna hold up as much as like it did when I first seen it.
Do I want to invest the 4 hours plus into this again?
I was just nervous that I wouldn't feel as strongly about it, but
It
watching
really
it
is
again,
a bummer when that happens.
yes, it is. Watching it again, I think that it definitely holds up. So Storm of the Century it's in 3 parts. And it's like 4 hours. Who directed this actually? I don't even know. The director is Craig R. Baxley.
He did Rose Red too.
Okay, he did Rose Red, Kingdom Hospital, Dark Angel, Stone Cold
Oh, Stark Angel's cool.
Oh, Stone Cold's awesome, man.
from 91.
Oh, Stone Cold too. Yeah, that was cool. I have that one too.
Yeah, with the football player. That's awesome.
The
just a
Triangle
total
from
bro movie.
2005, Twisted Desire, Under Pressure. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff, honestly.
Bunch of Stephen King stuff.
Yeah. But this film takes place in I assume Maine, somewhere around Maine or something. It's an island town, like sort of a like a fishing town type thing. and it establishes that fairly quickly. It has that same vibe as like something like 30 Days of Night, where it's community, right? It's a small town where everyone knows each other. Everybody is like, it's like more of a family than a town, right? Like everybody's involved in everybody's shit. And it's during a time where there is a massive storm coming that they're dubbing the storm of the century, giant snowstorm. It starts hitting, and it opens up with an old woman who gets murdered by this mysterious stranger to the town. A kid eventually finds her murdered in her house. The guy's still there, so the mayor goes to check it out, and then the constable, who's sort of like the main character, goes, and they meet this guy named Andre Lenoge. Born of Sin, come on in, is his catchphrase. But he is a very creepy dude, man. Like it's one of those performances that remind you of like classic Stephen King villains, like, you know, Pennywise, or even the guy from The Stand, forget his name. But you know, just a classic like big bad, like a big bad fucking villain, you know, just creepy as hell, like powerful. But he keeps telling them that give me what I want and I'll go away, but nobody knows what the fuck he wants, you know. He doesn't elaborate on that yet. And people start dying in the town, and the town's like freaked out because he's able to do things that, like, he knows things about these people that secrets and stuff that no normal person would be able to know. So you almost get the vibe that it's possibly supernatural or something, you know, sins of these people that they've committed in the past, for everything from, actually, they mention one thing in the film that they never actually, like, you never find out who the pedophile was, but apparently one of them was a pedophile as well. Curious if there's actually a book that is the original screenplay, like fleshed out into a book or whatever. I'm curious if they ever tell you who the pedophile was. Probably just kept it off because, like, TV, you know.
Yeah.
But you sort of slowly find out what this guy wants, and it gets really dark, bro. And it's actually like terrifying. And I think that the third act of this film, it's sort of like set in the courthouse where the community is like deciding something. And I think that whole last part of this is amazing, and it holds up great. It's very like intense. It's like heartbreaking kind of, but also like, you know, the scene in the Mist where like the crazy religious woman is going off and then the people start like following her, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it pisses you off so bad, right? Yeah. Like it makes you mad.
The hypocrisy is real.
It sort of has that whole vibe here where you're getting mad at the way that the mob mentality of it. And the interesting thing about this question is it brings up the question, the value of a human life and the value of one life versus many lives. You know what I mean? That moral dilemma of, is it better to save, you know, to sacrifice one to save a bunch, or is it better to not? You know, such an interesting dilemma, and it's throughout this movie. And it also just has great atmosphere. I mean, it's just all snow and they're snowed in. The villain is great because he's very charismatic. He feels very like wise, and he also just feels always in control. And you don't know his motive, and it slowly unravels like what his motive is, and it actually isn't disappointing at all. It's actually really cool. And then there's actually like an epilogue to the film too that's really powerful and, you know, puts a statement on things. I can't believe that this movie is not considered one of the best Stephen King things, because I think it's incredible. And it's but the only problem with it is it does suffer from 1999 like TV movie syndrome at times, where it, there are a few things that happen in the movie, like effects wise, that might not be the best. Like he holds this cane that has like a wolf's face on it that comes to life kind of thing. And, like it's not really an important thing in the movie, but it just it might look a little shitty, because the era that it came out. But the actual like story and the narrative and the acting and the writing, the writing is good in this movie, especially in that last part. I was so impressed with this rewatch. I was like, dude, this is definitely a film that should be loved more, and it's not. I don't get it. I think it's amazing. I give it a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
I've always been interested in this one, but it's like you said, availability.
Yeah, it's currently available on Hulu to stream. And it's just sad that Kino DVD that they put out did not have a Blu-ray version. Such a good, awesome, perfect for winter viewing as well. Because it's all snowy and stuff, but a little long. Obviously it's an investment. I always have said that I think the best way to watch miniseries is to actually watch them in parts. Watch the first part one night, and then the second part the next night, and the third part the next night, or even a week apart, because it makes you wonder what's going to happen next, and sort of like makes you like excited to see the story play out. You know what I mean? It's a different style of watching things, but I do think that the best way to watch a miniseries is that way.
I got so little patience for that. Oh,
I know you
do. Dude, like me, like
I watched the whole thing in one sitting. So
yeah, I rarely will just like binge like a 5-hour anime in just one sitting. Be like, well, I'm not gonna break this up. Let's go.
Cool. 9 out of 10.
Yep.
Wow. Crazy.
When's the last time you saw that?
Oh fuck, dude. I watched it. It's got to be 20 years, man. I barely even remember it, dude.
I remember Rose Red. I was probably a little bit too young.
Rose Red is nowhere near as good.
I remember that actually, I think, kind of scared me when I was a kid.
Yeah, I don't mind Rose Red. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be, but it's all right. Yeah, what was the last one I did there? Devil Doll. So that one had, I think, like 1,900 reviews on Letterboxd. So, I mean, I guess that's pretty, obscure, I guess.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that when I was talking about that one. So anyways, we're going to go to the 70s here, 1973, with a film called Dr. Death, Seeker of Souls. I was shocked, man, when I fucking went on Letterboxd here, and it only has 278 reviews or logs. 278.
Yeah, that's lower than my 561.
Yeah, 278 is crazy, man. I mean, this movie was released by Scorpion. It's got a nice Blu-ray release. So I was a little bit shocked by that. I was like, holy shit, man, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah, I'll buy movies like obscure like this at the Kino sometimes. I'm just like, wow, like why is there a Blu-ray of this?
Yeah.
What year did it come out?
1973.
73, yeah.
Yeah, 1973. So I bought this one when it got released from Kino or from Scorpion, and I was like, "Fuck, man, this shit's fucking so much fun." And again, it makes my list because I never hear anyone talk about this one. It's so weird.
Find it.
You have to type in like so much of the name before it comes up.
Yeah,
it's not Santo versus Dr. Death from
no. It's not a Santo film. It's not a Santo film.
Yeah, Dr. Death, Seeker of Souls. Once you get to like the Seek, it'll come up.
Is it abbreviated Doctor or spelled out?
It's spelled out. I made that.
No, it's spelled out. Dr. Death, Seeker of Souls. 1973.
I found it.
Yeah. So basically what we got here, we have Dr. Death, man. He's a magician who is essentially mastered the art of reincarnation. That's kind of the whole thing with him. He's about 1,000 years old. And so basically what it is, like way back in the day, he came up with this method or this way to basically reincarnate himself into another body. So now what he does is, like, once he transfers his soul over into a body and it plays itself out, because we all age out kind of thing, right? He's got to transfer that thing. So now it's like in the present day, and he's got a magician show and he's showing people like how he can do this. And it's kind of cool because like it kind of reminds me of like Wizard of Gore, I guess, a little bit. With like the stage show and the killings and stuff like that. So like, he'll actually like kill people on stage and transfer their soul into like another body and stuff like that. So where it leads into our narrative, where there's a dude that just lost his wife, and he really, really fucking wants to, like, he wants his wife back. So he's at this show and he sees this and he's not really believing it too much and stuff like that. But then he kind of gives into it and he's like, well, I mean, if this guy can actually transfer souls and, he can resurrect my wife kind of thing. So this guy seeks out his profession, and he pays him like a shit ton of money, like 50 grand or something like that, to basically resurrect his wife and stuff like that. And so we go from there. But like, this movie's got a lot of craziness going for it, man. So our lead guy who plays Dr. Death, John Constantine, he's super awesome in the film. Like, he's got the greatest voice. The way he projects himself in every scene is just fucking amazing, dude. Like, he steals every scene, man. It's so awesome. And it's like, it's so much more violent than you think it's actually going to be, because like, he's like legitimately killing people on stage and transferring their souls and doing all this type of stuff. He's got like this sidekick. His name is Thor. He's like lost an eye from like a fucking attack and stuff like that. It's fantastic. But like, what's crazy about this film is like, when he's doing all this killings on stage and he's transferring all these souls and stuff like that. So once he gets this job basically from this guy to resurrect his wife, shit kind of goes crazy at this point, because for some odd reason, her dead body is rejecting these souls. He just goes on a fucking rampage. He starts killing people left and right, because what the idea is, like, once you kill somebody, their soul has to be transferred right away. It has to be right away. So there's this like moment in time where it can only work. Anyways, her body keeps rejecting these souls. So like, he keeps killing and he's got to figure it out and stuff like that. And it just kind of goes from there. It goes completely fucking batshit in the third act in this film. Super, super fun film. I've honestly, I don't think I've ever heard anyone mention this movie before. And it's quite shocking considering.
I remember Zach talking about it, I think, back in the day.
Really? Yeah, it's super fun, dude. Like, the lead actor in this film totally steals the show. Like I said, man, like, he's so awesome throughout the whole film. You're just like, oh, this is great. And it breaks it down too. Like, it shows you like how he developed his thing like 1,000 years ago. And like, there's a great montage in the middle of the film where he's explaining like, it was super cool, to transfer my soul into all these different type of bodies. He'd be like, it's a great scene where he's like, I was an Asian girl, I was a little boy, I was this and that. Like, he would transfer his soul into like all these different types of people, and it's a fucking great scene, man. It's awesome. But it's like, it's not a comedy at all, but there's moments in the film where he says things that are so goddamn fucking funny. I mean, obviously there's those comic relief moments. So like, there's this great scene where he says something about he's kissing this dead girl, and he's like, well, she kisses better than that live girl and stuff. And it's just hysterical, giving the tone of the film, which is actually pretty serious. And you got these like moments where you're like, oh shit, that's kind of funny. It's great stuff. Yeah, you know what? Now when I think about it, JP, I think that Zach actually did bring up this film before. It kind of makes sense because like, he loves that early, like, 70s cinema, 70s horror films and stuff like that. And this is one of those films, like, I actually can't believe doesn't have a bigger following because it is fantastic. It's got great performances. It's got so much violence in it. It goes insanely batshit in the third act. Like the whole third act is just ridiculous. It's so insane. And the end of the film is awesome too. It's totally cool. Very atmospheric. Like I said, great haunting score in it. Just a lot of good elements to the film. Again, don't want to give too much away from it. But it's a good one. It's really damn fun. If you like these type of reincarnation, magician type films, I guess that's almost like too. And like Devil, I never really thought about it, but like with Devil Doll, it has that type of thing too. It's got the soul thing happening and stuff like that. So there's two films here that are kind of similar. Never really thought about it till right now. Interesting. But yeah, Dr. Death, Secret of Souls, super fucking fun film, man. What did I give this one? I gave this one 8 out of 10 also. It's another good 90-minute watch. Can't go wrong. Check it out if you like this early 70s exploitation, violent ridiculousness. It's awesome. It's good stuff. But I mean, what was it? 278 longest on Letterboxd, man. Yeah. So like, this one really has not been seen. And
like literally no one's seen it.
It's so crazy to me because like I've had this Blu-ray for I don't know, over 10, 12 years. Like it's crazy. So check it out, man. It's good stuff. Tyler.
All right. So for my next pick, we're gonna move our way up to 1968. And we are going to go to Sweden. This is probably, like, if I had to guess, this is probably the one that's most peripheral known of any film on my list. But if I get an opportunity to talk about Ingmar Bergman, I'm going to do it. So, my next pick is Ingmar Bergman's 1968 film, Hour of the Wolf. You've both probably seen this, and I guarantee you
not only did we both see it, it both made our top 10 of 1968. Like, I think.
I guarantee you too. When I watched, when I listened to that episode, I was probably like, okay, that's nice. I'm never gonna watch that, and it just like completely like went to the back of my brain. And then when I discovered who Ingmar Bergman was, like a couple years later, like I always feel like he actually made a horror film. Make sure you watch this one. And yeah, I like this movie a lot. This is probably one of my more favorite discoveries of the last few years. Bergman, to me, like, I'm very clearly big on psychological horror. I kind of try to argue for that a lot of the time. And to me, he's really like the godfather of psychological horror. All his movies are about identity, isolation, and regret. And those are such giant broad themes you see in modern psychological horror. And his fingerprints are it's that whole kind of A24 movement, new movement of horror films in the late 2010s. His fingerprints are all over it, and that's so fascinating to me. This film, I think, kind of also groups together with the last two films I talk about, where I kind of have a mental almost thesis I've been thinking of about where did psychological horror really start. And I've always considered this film seconds, Woman in the Dunes, Repulsion, whatever and whatever happened to Baby Jane, maybe The Bad Seed is kind of the very earliest godfathers of what modern psychological horror would be. And I think you can really trace really anything back to one of those films. And I think this one did a lot for exploring the idea of the horror, the nightmare within is scarier than the actual than the scarier than the actual nightmare, where this film's really self-reflective and uses its setting to follow this character that's really struggling with identity. This film is presented in a weird way too, where it almost seems it's breaking the fourth wall, or a found footage at first. It starts with an interview with his wife, right, and then it goes into this fictional story, which was also just kind of a cool technique at the time. It's Max von Sydow, who most people would know from The Exorcist and just any movie in history, is the star of this with Liv Ullmann, who is a giant Swedish star at the time and was in a lot of Ingmar's movies. She's really great. But yeah, it's about this couple like on their vacation home from the island, and the island kind of is like a sense of isolation, but it's like a sense of also getting away from like modern day living. And the whole like movie is like a disintegration of like Max von Sydow's like mentality or like his identity, where he likes like escaping like to this island with like his wife, but like the mundane like, but he's bored with it. And then like there's like this other woman that lives there that he's had an affair with, that like keeps him almost like trapped there. And all the people, and there's these like a lot of weird scenes with the other people on the island that relate to like nightmares he like confesses to his wife. There's a lot you could like really interpret about this movie. But it's kind of like driven forward by like Max von Sydow's romantic desires. And they tie in with like the nightmares he's like confessing to his wife. There's like a whole lot to interpret. It's kind of hard to like actually like talk about this movie without just like giving an interpretation of it. But it just like it plays on like that characteristic of like a site like your psyche like disintegrating and like losing your identity, which is like that's kind of like it's kind of like the modern the lead into like trauma horror that's like so like kind of like so popular now. And it's, the way this movie is just like filmed is like it just shows you like what a like why like Ingmar is like such like a huge has been such like a huge influence like all over cinema. He's kind of like in that like I don't want to say like boring group of directors, but like that group of directors that like will always get named by like all like the big time like directors like influences. He kind of like he's just like that like fundamental, and like the way like he uses camera techniques, and he never had a budget for like any of these movies, so like everything just had to be like all talent with this guy. And there's certain scenes in this movie that the camera techniques, the way he just like utilizes sound and just the storytelling is so far ahead of its time. This movie just so experimental, and it can be interpreted in a couple different ways. But I don't even like know where to go with this without spoiling it much. So yeah, this movie is really hard to talk about. I sound like a babbling idiot right now.
I can't remember it barely. That was
it's
10 years ago.
Yeah, it's like if a couple like that's the thing with these. I don't want to give anything away on these movies, right?
These movies are like it's like really visually, and it's like it's just such like this movie is like way more visual than anything else. And a good like comparison to this movie would be like The Lighthouse, where it's like just a like that could almost practically be like a remake of this movie, where like someone's so overwhelmed by their settings and like their past that like their psyche is like disintegrating. And like there's a ton of ways you can interpret that movie too. It's very similar to this. If you like that movie, you'll probably love this movie. And,
it was my favorite film of a couple years ago. So
yeah, this movie's fantastic. I love Ingmar a lot. This is definitely one of my favorite films by him, and I think this is probably of any movie on my list, I would say this movie is more directly important to like horror today, or like just this new exploration of like psychological horror that's been like really getting itched the last few years. I think it's a lot of it can be attributed to a movie like this. So yeah, you can watch this movie. I think you can watch this one on HBO Max.
Wait, so were all of these criterions?
Yep.
No fucking way.
This one though, you can only buy in the Ingmar Bergman box set, which is a lot of money. I own it, but that's because I love Ingmar Bergman. But I wouldn't recommend that. You can only watch this on Criterion channel, but I'm sure you could like probably find a rip of this somewhere.
I've got a UK DVD of it. I think that's how I have it. So
yeah, I have the box set, so I have it on that. But yeah, that was my. But yeah, Hour of the Wolf by Ingmar Bergman, 9 out of 10.
Nice.
All right.
All right, my last one, I guess, here. This one is also from the year 1968. It's a film I've talked about for a few years, and it is Twisted Nerve.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, this has been on my watch
I actually
list
just
forever.
I mean, I didn't. I think last summer I picked up the Umbrella Blu-ray of this. So
Did you watch it?
no, I haven't. I haven't rewatched it. You know.
Yeah, this is one I wasn't gonna put on because I've literally talked about this movie being like a hidden gem for so long, so it would have been
Right.
obvious that it was here. But it just people still have not went and seen it after all these years of
Right.
me talking about it. So this one has 3,549 logs on Letterboxd. It's probably most like known as a film that Tarantino took the score from. So it has a score by Bernard Herrmann. That's like do 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 do, or I'm not musically inclined, but it's the whistle score, you know, from Kill Bill, where the character with the eye patch is whistling down the hallway. That's from this movie. It plays a lot in this movie. There's characters that whistle in this movie. But that's what it's known for. And it's very haunting and works very well. But this movie is from 1968, and it was directed by Roy Bolting, who I've only seen one of his films, I think, but he's made a bunch. Doesn't seem like he made a lot of like horror or, you know, thrillers or what would you call it? Chillers, I guess they were called back then.
Mm-hmm.
Psycho chillers is kind of what this is considered as, which similarly to like Psycho, it's psychological a bit. So definitely has that like Alfred Hitchcock Psycho influence. It also feels just influenced by Hitchcock in general. I mean, you got Bernard Herrmann doing the score, and it just feels like Hitchcockian a little bit. But it basically follows this character named Martin, who is pretty much a psychopath in a way. He has a brother with Down syndrome or some sort of learning disorder, who's sent off to some sort of hospital, and he sort of develops a trait to which he pretends to be mentally handicapped around town and stuff. So he pretends to be simple, as they would put it in those films. And one day he gets caught shoplifting. And there's this girl named Susan, who's like a very pretty young girl who he has a liking to. And he basically, to get out of it, pretends that he's, you know, mentally disabled, and then the police are like, "Oh, this kid's just an idiot," you know what I mean? And not that he actually intended to steal something. And the Susan girl like pays for it and feels real bad because she gets wrapped up into it because they thought she was working together. So he gets this fascination, obsession with this Susan girl, and essentially infiltrates her life. Basically, the family takes him in, Susan and her mother, and he tells his parents that he has a bad relationship with that he's gone to like boarding school, which is where they wanted him to go, or something. And then he basically manipulates and just fucks with everybody and just lives this life in their house, pretending to be a mentally handicapped person, but he's not. And it gets pretty, there's like some stuff with the mother that gets like really kind of shocking for the time. Like the mother character, Susan's mother, starts getting like an attraction to him, you know what I mean? Like, and she's like this older divorced housewife that you know, probably was like very beautiful and, you know, sort of like coming into her older age and not liking it type thing. And Georgie sort of makes her feel like, I think the first thing he says to her is like, "You're beautiful like Susan," and, you know, kind of pulls her heartstrings a bit, you know. But he knows what he's doing. He's such a manipulator. Like he manipulates everything, you know. He's a really manipulative, like crazy dude. So he fakes being this Georgie character who is mentally handicapped, but his real name is Martin and he's not. I would say that the film is the only reason I could think that this movie isn't like widely available on, like, I don't think it's streaming anywhere. Is there that you said Umbrella put it out?
Yeah, I've got the Blu-ray. Yep.
It used to stream on Prime, and I was like, "Oh, I'll just watch it there one day," and it just went away, and it's never been back. And I always felt like a dumbass about that.
The only thing I could think that like people might not want to touch it is because of the subject matter. Like it was very controversial when it came out in terms of like the way that which I don't even get, because they say like they referred to Down syndrome in this film as Mongolism. But like it's almost like people
maybe it's the terminology.
Right.
Because I can see that pissing off people today, man. Like Mongolism, like they'd be like, "Oh my God, that's horrible."
Yeah. But it's almost like the complaints where that mentally handicapped people are prone to violence and stuff. But it's like, dude, the guy is faking being mentally.
No, they're not prone to violence. They're prone to being really fucking strong
and happy.
Happy, right?
But like, because I was reading about like the director even came out and like apologized and stuff like that.
Oh fuck.
And
what is this, 2019, 20?
Regret and depression over the movie and stuff like that. So I was like, I don't know if it just has to do with that maybe like the subject matter is just stuff people don't want to touch, but I don't think it's like very offensive or anything. Like, it's not saying that mentally handicapped people are murderers, because he's faking it. He's not actually, right.
But maybe that's what's so offensive,
I guess. I mean, yeah, but I think it's really good. It's classic, like 60s, like, late 60s, well made, very like proper, feels very like British, classy. Yeah. It's, everybody talks with like great elegance and stuff like that. And even Georgie, who's like supposed to be this dude with like Down syndrome or something, like he talks better than I do. Like more proper.
That doesn't surprise me.
But yeah, I love Twisted Nerve. It was, I believe, my number 3 of 1968, and that's only because that year also Rosemary's Baby and Night of the Living Dead came out. It's tough competition, but I've loved this movie since I first seen it, and rewatching it held up. I think that more people should check it out. It's really solid. I give it a 9 out of 10.
Man, 68 has some fucking heavy hitters, man.
It's the best year of the 60s.
I don't know, man. 64 is heavily represented right now.
Yeah, I guess so. But there's even more like Targets. There's even more like 1968 films.
Yeah, I actually just watched
Blood and Blacklist too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually I watched Targets actually for the first time like about a week ago.
And then what was that?
Finally popped that in.
Ride with the Devil.
What company put that out?
Criterion.
Yep.
Oh, he's being facetious. I see.
Yeah.
Right.
But that is my 5 hidden gems.
Good choices.
60s, 90s, 80s, and then 2 from the 2010s.
Yeah, good shit, man. Good stuff. So we're gonna go to 1962. I think the 60s fucking won today.
Woo!
I know. I picked a 60s film because I was like, well, I should pick something older, thinking that there wasn't going to be much older representation. And then I'm the only
I think the majority of our films are from the 60s.
2 modern films.
Yeah, like everything is from the 60s. It's crazy. With a film called Burn Witch Burn, also known as Night of the Eagle. This is the only
seen this.
Yeah, this is the only film that I saw that you guys had logged. That was Tyler logged this one. Did you?
That's a Kino, right?
Yep, that's where I bought it.
Yeah.
It's actually a Scorpion release, just released.
Oh, stop with that.
It is.
Stop with that.
It is a Scorpion release. Yeah.
It's also a Kino release because it says Kino on the cover too.
No, I'm telling you, man, it's a Scorpion release. That was one of the titles that they got distributed through Kino. It's a Scorpion release, but it was just distributed through Kino, so they put their name on it. But you look at the actual.
Wait, isn't
Blu-ray.
that technically like a release? They're releasing it too.
Well, they're projecting it out to us. I mean,
It says Kino on the back of the cover, though, does it not?
it says Scorpion also, and it
right. So it's also a Kino release.
But look at the whole structure of it. It's a Kino, or it's a fucking Scorpion release. Look at how it falls into every other casino Scorpion release. Like, look at the back of it. It looks like a Scorpion release, right?
Right.
It doesn't look like a Kino because it's just distributed by Kino. It's a Scorpion transfer. It's a release. It's just distributed. They signed like I don't know what it was, like a fucking 20, 30 fucking movie deal where they were just being distributed through Kino. They're Scorpion.
Yeah,
release.
there's a few other companies that do that with Kino as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because they just have the distribution.
Is Scorpion even, are they still releasing things?
Yeah.
Well, I get to buy it from Kino for like $9.99.
Yeah,
So
so if you go to Kino,
right?
yeah. So, but yeah, so you guys have seen this one? Seen Burn Witch? Yeah. Yeah, so Burn Witch Burn Man basically follows like we've got
we were supposed to do this on the show.
Were we?
Yeah, we had this plan. I think it was a witch show or something.
Oh shit, crazy. Follows our lead character, Norman, who is a like college professor, and he's very, I wouldn't say naive to the fact of like witchcraft and stuff, but he's more of he's a teacher. He's a scientist guy. Like, I mean, this guy doesn't believe in that type of supernatural shit, man. He believes in science. Right? He basically finds out that his wife has been practicing witchcraft and stuff like that, and he ultimately freaks the fuck out. And he helps out. He basically burns all of her paraphernalia. And she's like, no, you can't do that shit, man, because I've been protecting us with this. And like the reason why, she basically explains to him that the reason why you are where you are is because of the protection I've been projecting with this witchcraft and stuff. He doesn't believe a fucking thing of that. He's like, that's bullshit. So they burn it all, and then shit goes south. Like everything in their life just fucking totally changes, man. Like, so basically the fact that he burnt all this paraphernalia and he kind of broke the fucking barrier that that she had put up, and shit goes crazy in their lives and stuff like that. I really like this.
You know what? That one doesn't even say Scorpion on the back of the case.
It is a Scorpion.
Kino.
It is a Scorpion release.
They did just re-release it.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that it's basically the same thing these days.
It's a Scorpion release, fucking distributed through Kino. But anyways, tell me one Kino release that looks like that. Every Scorpion release looks like the back of that fucking Blu-ray. So, anyway,
except for it doesn't even have Scorpion though. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, I mean that actually could be an error, but it could be. But anyways, so I was always super confused on why this movie was called Night of the Eagle, but then it kind of plays into it and stuff like that. You get some scenes with the eagles and stuff like that, but like, I love the narrative in this film. It really, it makes you like, if you're a non-believer of supernatural and witch stuff and stuff like that, it really makes you kind of try and believe into it. You know what I'm saying? Like he right down to the nitty gritty in this film, like just will not accept that witchcraft exists. Right. And all this crazy shit is happening. Like his wife literally told him that, you kind of fucked up. You burnt the shit. You broke the barrier. The weird part of the narrative is like, I don't know if you caught on to this, Tyler, but like, it's kind of unexplained a little bit as to why there is something happening and why the wife has put up this big barrier, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't want to give anything away.
I remember this movie being like getting like ridiculous and almost having like a Christmas Evil type like deal at one point.
It's weird because like we have all this shit happening. Like it seems very straightforward until there's like this reveal of somebody that has been projecting these spells upon the professor. And the reason why the wife has put up this projection is because, the shit was happening and stuff like that. But it's kind of unclear as to why it's actually really happening. But I mean, it's there. I mean, you get it. I mean, somebody's doing something, she's protecting, it's all gone kind of crazy and stuff. You know, the weird thing about this film is that it totally reminds me of like Back to the Future Part 2. You know when like Biff steals the almanac and like skews the timeline in Part 2 and it goes into like Bizarro World? That's what it kind of feels like in this film at times. It feels like something was skewed by him burning all that paraphernalia and breaking down that barrier. And then like it skews, like it doesn't skew the timeline per se. It skews like the reality that they're living in. And it's kind of a cool feeling because you're like, holy shit, like you're totally in a different world. You're in the same world, but you're like, you feel like you're in a different world at the time. And I think this one plays out really cool, man. I mean, obviously the eagle effects are a little bit whatever, but it kind of plays on like your emotions and stuff while you're watching this film, because you're like, is this shit really happening? Is it happening for real? Or is it not happening? Is it like hallucinations? Is it just witchcraft? Is it just like, you know, all that type of thing? I mean, I truly believe that, you know, the director is projecting the fact that this actually is happening in the film, which I think is pretty cool. Another cool note on this film, Richard Matheson actually wrote the screenplay for this. So if you guys are familiar with Richard Matheson, who has done so much good stuff in the past. Actually, I just rewatched Trilogy of Terror, who I believe he penned all 3 short stories in that one. Am I correct?
Is that 1975?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So Matheson, I think, penned all 3 stories in that one too. But yeah, it was just kind of funny because I watched that one and then watched Burn Witch Burn. I'm like, oh, Richard Matheson actually wrote the screenplay for this. But this one is actually quite in depth. Like, I think there's a lot of shit that's happening in this film that's pretty intriguing. You could probably break it down quite a bit if you know, given spoilers and stuff like that.
I need to rewatch this one. I can't really remember it too well.
I think it's really fun. I think just the
I don't remember
one
much specifically.
I just think the one element of the film that's a little bit odd is that, like, you know, like I said, the wife is projecting, you know, this barrier and stuff like that. But then we find out someone was doing something, but like, it's kind of unclear why this person was doing what she was doing, because, and based on who she actually is in the film too, to our main character, the professor and stuff. And you're just like, what the fuck is so strange? But anyways, the whole movie is really cool, man. I think it's really in depth. It's an interesting look at like witchcraft and you know, the in and outs of believing in things too, because when you're a person of science, you generally would not believe this type of shit, right? You know, it's like, I believe in science, so like religion and stuff is kind of like far-fetched to me. So I kind of take those notes and you put yourself into the film that way, and it's interesting. It's very, very interesting when you kind of break it down. So, but Burn Witch Burn, man, I think is an overlooked film that needs to be seen more. Great performances. I think the lead in this film, I don't even know, Peter Weingard. I don't know what the fuck, man. He does a fucking fantastic job in this film, man. He's so good in this movie. Really, really good. Great performances, great cinematography, great soundtrack.
Yeah, I remember this movie looking really good.
Oh, dude, it looks so good. The cinematography is beautiful in this film. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
like this had like really clean black and white cinematography. That's what I remember most about this movie.
Oh, totally, man. 100%. It looks really, really good. I think the performances are good. It's quite menacing. It's very, very dark. There's a lot of shit that's going on in this film. It's just one that needs to be seen. I mean, if you like these type of witchcraft type films, you like black and white cinematography, it looks beautiful. Super, super good. Check it out, man. If you go to search it, don't type in Burn Witch Burn, because literally IMDb will not even recognize that. You have to type in Night of the Eagle, which I don't like that title, and it does play into the film. There is a point to Night of the Eagle, but I prefer the term Burn Witch Burn. And there's actually literally a scene in the film where a character, hence villain, says the fucking line, Burn Witch Burn. It's fantastic. It's really good. So Night of the Eagle, don't like that title at all. Stick with Burn Witch Burn. Good shit. 8.5 out of 10 on this one. Check it out. It's a good film. It's got a nice release from Scorpion.
Fuck off.
It is Scorpion. I'm fucking telling you, it's fucking Scorpion.
Listen, I think Kino kind of took over all those properties at this point.
I'm telling you, that was a distribution deal, man.
I know, but I think
Scorpion
the
/ Code
distribution
Red
deal turned into a we own the shit now deal, because they're like re-releasing some of the ones that were on.
Oh, I mean, they probably had those rights to re-release and stuff like that, but like Code Red and Scorpion were pretty much like, they were two identities, but at the same time, they signed distribution deals with Kino to release their stuff. That's why you get those those bigger releases through Code Red and stuff that aren't numbered, right? There's like the Kino releases, same as Scorpion type thing. It is what it is. This movie specifically is in my Scorpion collection because it matches all the other Scorpions. It's in my Kino
collection because
you are so dumb.
Because first of all, I don't even have a Scorpion collection because I hate Scorpion and Code Red.
Why? They released so much good stuff.
They were overpriced and they played games with their limited shit that I didn't like. And I'm just like, I'm not supporting these fucks.
You know what, man? I got over that shit years ago. I'm just like, I just want the fucking movie. Like, fuck, whatever. I don't give a
Once
fuck.
they do a distribution,
you know what the worst is right now?
The superior Kino, then it actually makes their titles possible to get.
You know what's fucking the worst company out right now, man, is fucking Scream Factory or Shout Factory. All these limited.
I know. I was so mad when I saw Venom is $30 limited to 1,600 copies.
Dude, all they're doing now is these website exclusives for all. They're doing box sets that are limited, man. Just exclusive to the website. I'm like, the fuck off with that shit, man. Just release it fucking wide.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just like
fucking Scorpion.
It's bullshit.
No,
Scorpion never had any limited stuff. It was Code Red would do weird shit, but like Scorpion was never.
Yeah, I think Scorpion was a little better.
No, they were always. Their stuff was always wide stream. Like when they had that their DVD line with the girl from the wrestling and stuff that would promote all the stuff. All that stuff was widely readable. Yeah. It was.
I did one thing I did like that they did was those like drive-in double feature things.
Yeah,
those were cool.
Yeah, so. Burn Witch Burn, aka Night of the Eagle. Like I said, if you want to search it, search Night of the Eagle on IMDb because that's how it comes up. It's so fucking weird how certain movies won't register when you type in the alternate title. Isn't that weird to me? It's so weird.
Well, Letterboxd is like weird because like they primarily use the UK title a lot of times because I think they're based out of New Zealand, so maybe it's the same with New Zealand. Like Dead Alive is Brain Dead. Zombie is Zombie Flesh Eaters.
Right. Yeah. So this one right here was probably my most popular title. It was 6.1 thousand reviews on Letterboxd. But I mean, I that's not overly that crazy. So
no, it's still pretty obscure.
Yeah. So which I was surprised actually that this one was the most popular one out of my list. I was like, really crazy, but. I guess some people have seen it, but it is what it is.
Cool.
So,
all right.
Good pick.
Yeah, Tyler.
All right. We're staying in the 60s.
Dude, you guys are ridiculous with this 60s shit, bro.
Dude, holy fuck that. You know how crazy that is? So I had 1, 2, 3 in the 60s. JP had 1. So that and Tyler's 5, so that's 6. That's fucking 9 of the 15 films were in the 60s.
I guess the 60s are good, huh?
Holy fuck, the 60s won tonight.
I think it means the 60s nobody watches that shit.
Apparently not.
So, I know you've both seen this movie. Moodz likes this movie a lot. JP does not.
I know what it is. The Cremator.
Oh god, that movie literally is actively bad.
The Cremator. The Cremator is statistically my most obscure film. And fucking Cremator, man. I can't explain how much.
What year is it? 1969?
1969 from the land of Czechoslovakia, which is no longer there.
Yeah, it's definitely not Czechoslovakia anymore. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very political. Like the film has political elements to it.
Yeah, this film was part of the Czech New Wave, and it's one of the crown jewels of it. It's like some other films you might have.
Dude, I'm actually going to buy this Blu-ray right now as you're reviewing it. I need to pick it up.
This film movement also has Valerie and a Week of Wonders in it, Marketa Lazarova, Davies.
Oh god, those are all bad.
Valerie and Week of Wonders, I love that movie.
Czechs suck at making movies, apparently.
But they also the person who got the start in this movie was Milos Forman with his movies like Loves of a Blonde and The Fireman's Ball, who went on to make movies in America like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Amadeus and won a bunch of Oscars. So the Czechs are pretty good at that. That Czech was good at making movies.
Okay. Fair point with that. But it wasn't until he got to America that he actually started making good shit.
Yeah, they had a lot of movies. Like the government kind of basically shut down this movement because they were making a lot of like really politically provocative and like Holocaust type commentary movies.
Yeah,
The
they
government
thought it was
didn't really like
influencing.
that.
They thought these films were influencing, right? They didn't want that shit.
Yeah, the government really didn't like that. And like, what's funny about this movie is the first time I watched this, I didn't like this movie. I thought this movie was like.
Am I the only one? Like when
but-
I watched it for the podcast the first time watch, I thought it was really fucking cool.
I
I
didn't
even
like
said to
this.
JP in the review, I said, JP, you don't like this movie because you don't fucking get it.
I didn't like it at first, and I was honestly bored the first time I saw it. I was like, what I just was not interacting when it was doing it, and I gave it like the limp 7, like out of respect. And then I watched it again like a year and a half later. No, it was less than that because this was Halloween 2021 was the first time I watched this. And the next summer I watched it again, and I was like, I felt like dumb. Like I like just sat there for like 20 minutes after the movie was over, like because my brain was so cooked by like how impressed I was by this movie.
Impressed by what?
This movie might have the best editing I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh, shut up.
This movie is the cinematography and editing of this movie is absolutely outrageous and out of this world. And like maybe it's because I've seen this
down, boy.
now, maybe because I've seen this movie 5 times now. But like there's so much satire and humor in this movie. It's fucking hilarious. He's constantly like looking at the camera and smirking like in like this like
breaking the fourth wall.
That's
Yeah.
horrible.
And then like anytime like they like name a character like a Jew, like that's not things are not looking good for in this Holocaust movie. Like it pans to them like and like they're turning their head like looking in fear. It's like this movie is just so creative and so like unnerving and so fucking funny at the same time.
Mhm.
Like I'm shocked by how much comedy they were able to pack into this movie, and it's just like. It's about this guy that's just like been working in a crematory for 20 years, like got so desensitized by death and disillusioned with the world that he joined the Nazis. Like this movie's about losing your identity and becoming obsessed in your labors, and it's so fucking like skin crawling, but it's also just like I'm so amazed by like just like that the way this movie's put together, the music cues, the way it's shot, like the commentary, just like the doses of humor that just like work and just fit all this out. Like
I think you have to incorporate comedy when you're dealing with like
it's like
Nazi shit, because you got to remember this is 1969. This is only 20. This is only 24 years removed from the end of the war,
like
right?
Making fun of the Nazis in this movie. They're literally making fun of people who got so disillusioned and like convinced themselves that turning in like their neighbors and like in this case, I'm not going to reveal like what this guy like does or like how it turns in this way, but it's like it's making fun of those people and it's just doing it, and it's like such like such a way that's almost like serial killers. It just like gets under your skin. It just like. I just love like the monologues. I love this guy's like sick smirk. I could watch this movie over and over happily. This is
what dude is wrong with you?
This was my 5th watch.
If you watched it one time, man, give it another shot, dude.
This is a prime
what
example.
Does Dave Z always say? What does Dave Z always say? Rewatches are a must.
Dave Z wouldn't even rewatch this shit, I bet.
Dave Z wouldn't watch this in the first place.
This is a prime example of like, if this was an American movie, not foreign and hidden, nobody would even fucking care about it.
Dude, I fucking hate that logic, man. I fucking hate that so much. I think it's bullshit. Just because something's foreign, people are like, they put it on a pedestal.
It adds a luster to it.
Okay, we have learned something about this
like
show, though.
That's the thing is, though, about it. It's not that because it's foreign. It's because like American movies on like subjects like this and like this type of filmmaking just weren't made like that in this time. And it's interesting to like look at other periods of the world and like see what they were doing. That's why like I really like.
Oh, I agree with you that it's interesting. And it's just like something like Come and See is phenomenal. You know what I mean? Which is a different perspective of the world.
Like that's kind of what this is, though.
No, not even
the
close.
Cinematography and editing is like
garbage. Yeah.
No, it's like literally.
I'm just kidding. I don't remember that. I don't remember that part. I'm trolling there.
Like if
I'll give it a
might
watch
be.
So
one day.
this is exactly how I expected shit to work out. Like JP has one film that's foreign. Tyler had
4.
I guess 4. And I had, if you want to consider the UK foreign, which I guess technically it is to
Yeah,
us.
it counts.
So 3 out of 5 of my films were from the UK.
To be fair, I did have foreign lists in my foreign films, a lot more foreign films in my 15. They were probably mostly foreign films.
And oddly enough, the one film that I did cut from 64 was actually from the UK also. So I had 2 US films and 3 UK. It's freaking
Listen,
weird.
I
So
love
random.
foreign movies, bro. Like some of my favorites of all time are foreign.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong. I love foreign movies. This movie was like painful when I watched it. I will rewatch it out of respect for maybe I was just not.
Because, well, the thing is,
Understanding.
I was like, it's funny. Because,
Dude, I told you were an idiot when we reviewed it.
I
was like, this movie was
remember,
good.
I remember because I actually watched this. It was like the last year that you did it, like the 31 days of the 31 days of horror challenge, right? I actually watched it for that challenge. And I remember after I watched it, I didn't like it. And your review was something like dialogue the movie. And I was like, yeah, that's about right. So like
I said that?
yeah. So I was
Sounds about
honestly like,
Man,
in
dude,
your camp.
sometimes I say impressive shit.
No,
I was in
it
your
was all
camp
wrong.
the
It was all wrong.
Yeah, I was in your camp the first time I watched it, but I watched it again, thankfully. And it's just like, I've watched this movie. This was the 5th time I've watched this. And like,
You picked this for us on Patreon?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
When you guys
Jesus.
talked about
Who's
it,
the weirdo out there that's impersonating Tyler and giving us all this boring shit to watch?
I wasn't Tyler yet. Like, you know,
There was some
like,
people
like back then, I didn't have this like kind of, like, refined taste yet.
What was that one really bad like UK film from the 1974? It was just like a woman's name was the title, and me and Moodz both hated it.
I remember
Marnie
you
or
talking
something,
about-
Martha or something.
I remember you talking
Yeah,
about
what was
this.
that? Oh,
Dude,
it
it
was so
sucked.
bad.
It was from like an
so bad.
actual good director too.
Yeah, dude. Oh, what was that? Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah,
I
that
think
was
I
a fucking
think I know,
total
'cause-
disappointment.
Oh, I think I know
Disappointing.
exactly what you're talking about. I don't remember what the name was, but I remember because it's a prominent director. And I remember I was like scrolling through this director's filmography, and like this director is wicked fucking slow and dry. I will give you that. His name is Rainer Werner Fassbinder. And I came, and then JP had
Fassbender. Yeah, Fassbender.
Yeah.
Arrow's released like what 3-4 box sets of Fassbender.
Yeah, JP has randomly had this one movie by him logged, and I bet you it's this movie. It was like 1 star. He was like, "This is the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life." Or something.
Yeah.
And that made me laugh. I was like, I honestly like, I like Rainer, but like, I absolutely understand why some be like, this is the most boring fucking thing I've ever seen.
It's funny, man. Well, I mean, this came down to exactly what I thought it was going to be. Like JP had a little bit more newer stuff on his. Tyler had all the fucking foreign shit from the 60s.
Criterion.
And I mean, for the most part,
Did you guys
have an idea what I was going to do? Because
I was most surprised by your list, Moodz, because I thought you would have had more like of a mix of like newer and older. I didn't expect mostly all older.
Well, it's funny because I actually cut a couple films that I watched, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do those on a different on the next one. I was shocked, to be honest, that I had 3 60s films. I don't know. It's just the way it went down. Like I said, there was no rhythm to the rhyme. It's just the way it ended up being. I can't explain it.
Yeah, I expected more 80s and 90s stuff from you, honestly.
Well, Born of Fire,
on my
I truly think that Born of Fire is one of those films that you need to see.
Born of Fire looks awesome.
Dude, it's real. Like, it's one of those films I just don't even want to say anything else about it because you need to see it. It's so incredible. It's fucking insane. So
next one I'm going all for it just to prove a point.
I have the 5 films that we're going to do for volume 2 already.
I mean, I have like I said, I had a list of 15. There's more out there that I could.
Next, I'm going to
you'll always grow on the list. The list will always grow.
I'm going to go all under 10K next time.
Dude, wouldn't that have been fucked up if we both had Blood Punch on this one?
Dude, I would have been so mad because like the chances of us having the same movie I thought was very slim. But that's so funny. That was literally In fact, there was 2 films that I almost didn't pick Storm of the Century because I thought it was too popular. But then Dave Z was like, I hope you pick that film that we always talk about. And I was like, which one? And it was Storm of the Century. So I was like, oh, dude, I should just put it on there since he was hoping for it. So
That's cool.
I
That's
did.
cool.
But I do think I feel like that one.
That one's more than fine.
Yeah, I feel like people do need to check that one out because I have it ranked so highly too.
Yeah.
Tyler totally
Dave Z
reviewed
does
his
as
in.
Oh, but
You
by
said
the way-
chronological, right?
yeah, I did
Yeah.
chronological. By
you
the
did
way,
that purposely.
by the way, I give the Cremator a 10 out of 10.
Damn.
To be fair, I gave it a 6.
What did I give it?
A 9.
Wow, we were really far off JP on that one. 6 and a 9. Crazy. Yeah, we saw that shit totally different. Totally fucking different.
I don't even remember it. I just remember it being really
Those are
boring.
like some of my favorite shows. Is when like someone
boring is like the worst thing for me. Like with movies,
I didn't
like,
find
I
it
just
fucking
can't.
boring. Like I get the humor in it. Like I thought it was very intriguing and like, but those are some of my favorite
probably
reviews. Is
my-
when like someone comes in at like an 8 or a 9 and someone's at like a 3 or 4. Like that's happened on the opposite ends of us a couple times. Like I think I gave like a 3 or 4 one time and you were like an 8 or 9.
The Cremator is probably my 3rd favorite film ever made.
That's just crazy to me, dude.
But he said favorite though. He didn't say best. He said favorite.
No.
Like I mean, people have
still,
different tastes.
It's still just as crazy. It's more crazy.
It doesn't surprise me that
crazy.
somebody would like that movie that much. Like
It surprises me when
all right, this is like
people
this is
like the Twilight movies. That is
like-
shocking to me.
this is how I can best
They're
explain it.
garbage.
This is if you think about like the movies I really like for the most
Mhm.
part, I like movies that are very dark and very darkly comedic. And this movie like really checks both those boxes hard. Like I really like movies like Old Boy, like Blue Velvet. What's another one? Like The Cook, the Thief. The
I don't
Wife
think
and
either of those
Lover.
are very darkly comedic.
What movie? What movie's not funny?
Blue Velvet is
Blue
completely-
Velvet?
Blue
Might
Velvet's
have one of the-
hilarious.
I think
Really?
it has. I
Blue
mean,
Velvet. You don't think it's funny when like Frank Booth is like screaming shit in people's faces?
it's
I don't think.
it's equivalent to fucking Nick Cage and fucking Vampires. Two
Yeah,
best
it's
performance
like-
of all time. I even said that.
That's
about-
like what it is. Like, dude, it's like his Red Rock West character, like on fucking steroid, just like screaming.
That's
at
what the thing
people.
about Red Rock West is that was kind of disappointing to me was like those two in the same car. I was expecting those two movies to clash at the same time. I'm like, man, I want to see these performances right fucking now.
Yeah, dude,
Because, like,
David Lynch. All David Lynch's movies are kind of funny. He has like a really good sense of humor. Like I love like Lost Highway 2, where he's like, "Oh, so how's it doing, buddy? You doing okay, buddy?" And the guy just so psychotic, like ready to kill him.
I feel like
he's,
Inland
Jack
Empire
Torrance.
has no comedy whatsoever in it
I
because the
haven't
movie
seen
is
that
so
one.
fucking weird. Like, dude, it is the weirdest movie ever made. It might even be the weirdest movie ever
I've
made.
heard people say like everyone would think this movie's a piece of shit if it wasn't directed by David Lynch.
To be honest, man, he wrote that movie every single day that the cast showed up. Like he was writing their parts that day.
Yeah.
It's
He's
the
like-
most bizarre film ever made. I swear to
Yeah,
God. But
I don't know why
it
I
might
haven't
even
watched
have one
it
of the
yet. I
best
own it.
scares for like a film that you might not consider as being like a full horror film.
It's listed as a horror movie.
It has the best fucking scare I think I've ever seen in a film. It actually made me fucking like jump. I was like, holy fuck, man, that's crazy. Like it was good. It was fucking good, man. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I've started an arc where like I just see like the humor like in horror movies. Like I'm just like really starting to notice like another layer. Like I think The Shining is like a comedy at this point.
Dude,
But I think that's what makes it good.
I don't think the comedy.
No.
I don't think that movie's a
But
comedy.
like he's like ready to kill them like right from the beginning, and then it's like Wednesday, Tuesday. It's like it's so in your face. It's like hilarious. I love
That's just
it.
how you're interpreting it because
True.
you're familiar with it.
I think that's what I mean though. Like I think like I've watched some of these movies like so many times, and like I've just like watched so many now that I'm starting to like just like pick up like this is supposed to be funny.
You ever watch a comedy and like you watch it so many times that you start to think it's not a comedy?
Probably
That's
not a
weird
lot.
concept. That's a weird concept.
Probably not a lot.
You could
but-
probably
no.
burn out a movie. Like honestly,
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting show. Very, very cool, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed that very much. I thought that was fun. It was fun preparing for it. It was fun picking the films. It was fun revisiting these films. Gave me an excuse to rewatch some of these that, to be fair, like none of these films are my favorite movies. You know what I mean? Whereas like Tyler, a lot of the ones that he actually feels very strongly and like they're his favorite movies. Yeah. I just really like a lot of these. It's hard for me to like most of my favorite movies are pretty popular, you know, like, so, but these movies are all good. I can guarantee that.
Yeah. I mean, out of the 5 films, I mean, Born on Fire, man, like, I don't know, man. I could see that movie being very highly regarded for myself later on down the road, you know, kind of thing. Like, I never really thought about it as like a favorite film, but like, fuck, dude, it's really cool, man. I really
feel
like
it. If anything from my list, if more people saw Seconds, it would be very highly regarded.
Yeah, Second, yes, it's cool.
I
mean, I love all these films.
The ones that I've seen are really good, except for the Cremator from Tyler's. Moodz, I only saw one of his, but all of his sounded really interesting. I actually was very familiar with the Devil Doll one. I'm pretty sure I either saw someone talk about it before
it's creepy.
Or something. Maybe I was watching like the history of killer dolls video on YouTube or something. Yeah, where it popped up. Because I think it's considered one of the earliest, if not the first, like killer doll type of movie. You know what I mean?
But it's got a cool twist. Like the thing that's cool about the film, it's not straightforward. You know what I mean?
I would like to not know anything about it pretty much.
Like it's pretty cool, man. And that's what I said about these films. Like even Dr. Death, like, I mean, there's moments in that film where you're like, shit, crazy. Like, I don't know, man. I think these are all kind of unique films, man. Like The Flesh Eaters is super fun. Super fucking fun movie, man. Like really, really fucking fun. Like it's one of those movies I couldn't imagine if you like that type of film, you not liking. You know what I mean? Like it's that type of movie. So yeah, so I mean, you know, I try to mix it up a little bit. Born on Fire is definitely super serious. Like it's dead fucking serious, but it's to me, it's an experience. It really is an experience. So watch that in its highest form, man. That Eureka Blu-ray, man, is fucking fantastic. So good shit. But
yeah,
I mean,
I think we should definitely try to do one of these per season of the show. I think would be fine.
Oh, yeah, I would love to do this again, man. Because I have so many movies. I have so many. Like I said, I have a couple film. Like there was one that I looked up and it only had 13 reviews on fucking Letterboxd. I was like, holy shit, that's obscure.
Yeah, I'd love to just like do it in the opposite direction, just picking like wicked obscure movies.
Yeah.
I think next time I'm gonna maybe open it up to a little bit. Like I'll remove my 8 and above criteria, just because there are a lot of like films that I would rate a 7 that are very criminally underseen. There might not be the best movies in the world, but like they deserve some light.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree with that for sure.
All right. So
yeah, I
guess that's it.
Yeah, good show. That was fun. That was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. The Cremator. I should have known that was going to come up, man. I really should.
Like, there was no way no one thought.
I didn't think he was going to pick it because I didn't like it.
Right.
No,
because then it's like one person's telling you to actively not see it, and the other person's like, "This is a job." It's like, no, stay away.
So I need to watch The Woman in the Dunes. I've never seen that one, so that's the one I have not seen from this show. That was the only one. Yeah,
that movie.
What about Twist and Nerve?
That's been on my radar for so long.
No, I mean I've seen Twist and Nerve before. It's on my list.
What list?
68.
No, you didn't have it on your list. You didn't see it.
Oh, that's right. I didn't watch it back then. Oh, that's right.
Maybe you've seen it since then. I don't know.
Yeah, and plus I got the Blu-ray now, so we're all good.
That's a movie I think I'd like to own on Blu.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the Blu-ray yet though, so it's actually still sealed. But yeah, I just picked it up at HorrorCon in the summertime, so yeah. But anyways. So that's episode 257, Hidden Gems, Volume 1. I would love to do another one of these.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. Good stuff.
And remember the contest, check out our enter, basically.
Enter the contest. Yeah, I'm not really too sure what I'm for the Canadian viewers. Not sure what are you doing for prizes? Did you say?
I was just gonna buy something on Amazon, like something new, but I haven't like looked into it yet.
Right.
Oh, you did have Twisted Nerve. That's right. I was thinking of Targets, the one that you didn't see. I
just watched Targets for the first time like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I watched the Criterion like 2 weeks ago and I was like, well, it's fucking cool, man. It's crazy how relevant that movie still is. Like it's shockingly relevant. It's actually really
it's actually even more so than when I watched it for 68.
Oh,
do you remember what Jeremy's number 10 was?
No.
Did he not have a number 10?
Do you remember his number 5 by chance?
Oh, because he only had 5.
Yeah. Dude, we're talking about how stacked 68 was. This motherfucker couldn't even come up with 10 movies.
Dude, I would be so embarrassed to show up to the show like that.
Dude, that is so fucking funny.
How did that like?
Oh man!
Did you know like until like he was?
Dude, I remember saying like, "Hey,
he didn't record with us."
Like, I remember saying for like the longest time, like when we were prepping for that, like, and I didn't even watch that many. I probably watched 20 movies for that.
Yeah,
because we didn't know the format or like how big it was.
It was the first top 10 show.
Yeah. Besides like the modern years,
right?
But I remember talking to him and be like, "Yo, don't forget to watch those 68 movies. Like, don't forget to come up with a list." And he, like, I remember it sparked arguments. He'd be like, "I'm fucking going to JPJs." And then here, sure enough, we get to the fucking date, and this motherfucker watched 5 movies for 68. And 2 of them he probably didn't even watch because he'd already seen them.
But he didn't record with us though, did he?
He submitted his audio.
It was just me and you for the show. Right.
We edited him in.
Yeah, that's fucking hilarious, man. That's so funny.
That was episode 51.
That's what I'm thinking too, man. He didn't even watch half his top 5.
Dude, that is hilarious.
Dude, that is so fucking funny, man. It's hilarious.
Yikes.
But yeah, I mean, in considering like it's kind of fucked up because like 68 is a really good year. Like really good year.
Yeah.
Like it's super competitive. Like knowing what we know now.
There's even stuff I like that didn't even make my list. Like
totally, man.
What's that alien movie? Forget what it's called.
If you just look
the slime, the green slime.
Right. Like Targets would be on my list now. Like it's
if
crazy.
You look at like Night, Rosemary's Baby, like Targets, Hour of the Wolf, like Twisted Nerve, like that's a pretty fucking hard top 5.
Yeah.
Actually, Moodz, you didn't even have Kuroneko on your list either.
Oh, no. Kuroneko 68. Yo.
Yeah.
Kuroneko,
which is
so
another
good.
Criterion release, right? Yeah.
I considered that movie, but I just felt like it wasn't as good as
I don't think I saw it that like I didn't have access.
It probably was harder to see back then.
Yeah.
We're literally talking what, like 2015, 2014?
Yeah. I didn't want to. I love that movie too. I didn't want to overload with Japanese movies. I just felt like it wasn't better than any of the movies I talked about, so I just didn't. But I considered this one. Ono Baba I thought was too popular.
Right. I do love that movie though.
Yeah, the same guy made it.
Good one.
Okay, so what's next week?
That is the OG versus remake show.
Carnival of Souls.
Carnival of Souls, which, yeah, I mean, someone got to hook me up with that remake because I went to Tubi. It's actually not on there.
It was.
It's not. At least I don't have access to it. It might be blocked for me, but like it doesn't come up for me. So that's interesting. I don't know how I'm going to see this.
Yeah, it says it's on Tubi, so maybe you don't get it then.
No, I think it's blocked up
Canada.
Here. Yeah. Which I don't know why the fuck that movie out of all things would be fucking blocked.
You can't see it. Oh, by the way, that thing I mentioned before, so also if you do the challenge, I'll send you any of my movies except Hour of the Wolf because I'm not sending you the Ingmar Bergman
that big ass box set.
Yeah, I'm not sending you the Ingmar Bergman set.
That's funny. We have so many show ideas, guys, listeners. We have the rest of the spring planned out already, and we have so many ideas for next season. It's like
yeah. So the only versions of Carnival of Souls that are even on Tubi for me are the riff track ones, and it's the originals, and it's the original riff tracks. Like fuck, yeah, dude. Like you can't even watch Carnival of Souls regularly. It's the riff tracks.
If watch with riff tracks,
I could probably send it to you.
Dude, this is annoying. I can't believe I need to find the remake of Carnival of Souls because I actually don't. I own like 15,000 movies.
Did you check YouTube?
I think I did actually, and I don't think it's on
because there. YouTube is like so undervalued for searching for movies.
No, I don't think it's on there.
There's so many times where I'm like, well, the original one is, but that one's everywhere.
Yeah, I think I did actually, and it's not on there.
Yeah,
on trailers. No.
The trailer's on there. Just watch that.
What year was that?
That's fucking hilarious.
1998.
1998. Okay. Or also was 1998.
Anyways, guys, that's we're done.
You can rent it on YouTube.
Well, he probably can't. Canada has like the weirdest renting things. Like they don't really offer renting.
Dude, it's tough, man. Super tough with the renting and shit.
I could probably get you a copy.
All right, cool, man. All right, well, that's going to conclude episode 257 in Gems Volume 1. We'll check you guys next week, hopefully, for OG First Remake, if I can see the remake. Yeah. Speaking of Criterion, yeah, we watching more Criterions of that. So check you guys next week.
Peace.
Deuces.
Game over.
That's all, folks.